I'm Bruce Buffer. It's time for the Anthony Gargano Show!
I am not Anthony Gargano, but I'm honored to be filling in for him. Good morning and happy Friday to everyone out there. I am Jamie Lynch, filling in for the Cuz today. And this portion of the show is presented by Rite Aid. Stop into your local neighborhood Rite Aid today and speak to your pharmacist, whether it's over-the-counter drugs or just something delicious and tasty from the market to managing your prescriptions. Stop into Rite Aid today and learn more. Yes, it is Friday. That means we made it to an abbreviated week for most people. Next Monday, January 6th, is going to be a rough return to reality for a lot of the working world out there. But happy Friday to all. Lot to get into today as it is a football Friday. We'll talk a lot about the Eagles. We have Fran Duffy joining the show at 10 o'clock. Bo Wulf joining the show at 10:30. We'll get best bets done with Brad Feinberg and the grind at 9:45. Tyler Zulli will be joining us shortly. And, of course, we got Andrew Frazier in behind the glass, as they say, even though we don't have any glass here. It's just a big open room.
Yeah.
But it's still the same, I guess you got to say. But happy Friday to all out there. We will, of course, talk about the Notre Dame Georgia game last night. Yeah, and Northeast Philadelphia and Delco are in a crash course for a civil war with Penn State and Notre Dame going at it next week. It's pretty cool theatrics. So we'll get into that plenty today as well. But we got to start with the big story presented by our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. There's 24 area locations all over the Delaware Valley. I think I passed 2 on my way to work. So it is always great to have a credit union on your side. To learn more, head to TrueMark.com. And the Greenlight app is tremendous, by the way, if you're trying to get your kid into some financial literacy, to not be a dummy like me and blow their credit in college. So get out there and check out the Greenlight app. The big story is the Philadelphia Eagles. It's week 18. It's not going to be the starters. On paper, it looks a little bit boring, but the Eagles have some really good depth, and looking forward to seeing some of the backup players this weekend. In all reality, honestly, I think some guys have an opportunity this weekend to go out there and, put some good stuff on tape. So we'll talk about some of the backups we're looking forward to. But one of the big stories that came out last night, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, the rumor amongst those close to the Eagles world and circle is that head coach Nick Sirianni could be on the hot seat if the Eagles only win one playoff game. It's a rumor. It's not a report. I think there is a distinct difference there in the two. But I'll just say this. Doug Peterson got fired a year after winning a Super Bowl. Anything is possible. The expectations are Super Bowl or bust, fair or unfair. That's how good this roster is. Now, Nick Sirianni, when you hear that on the surface, you go, it's kind of ridiculous, right? The guy's never missed the playoffs. He's got like the 3rd or 4th best active winning percentage of any coach with a minimal qualifying game. Like, the guy on paper just gives you great results. And to hear that, you go, well, sounds kind of ridiculous. But then you think about it deeper, and it's like, well, if Doug P had done the thing that no head coach in 52 years had been able to do. And Andy Reid, one of the all-time winningest, greatest NFL coaches of all time, if they had a shelf life, Nick Sirianni has a shelf life. So I saw that last night while scanning Twitter, and I was like, Jeremy Fowler is really good, and he is saying it's a rumor. But, yeah, no kidding. I want to say no bleep because the Eagles have to, make this a good Super Bowl run after last year's fizzling out. I was surprised, frankly, he came back this year. He won me back, no doubt about it. But to hear that, I went, sounds kind of ridiculous, but in all reality, yeah, it kind of makes a lot of sense. Andrew, does it make sense to you? Does it pass your sniff test here? Because it does sound hot take-ish on its surface.
It does sound hot take-ish. I'm looking at the numbers right now. He's won 47 games out of, he's 47-20. He's gotten to his Super Bowl. I know he lost it, but he took the team to the Super Bowl his second year here. He's been in the playoffs every year that he's been here.
First year should have been Coach of the Year, way exceeded expectations.
Would it be crazy for them to do it? No. Obviously, we saw Doug go after a Super Bowl win. So I don't think that it would be crazy to have it happen. But at the same time, I think the guy deserves a job here.
But if they go out and lose at home to, say, the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels, I totally see the scenario where he's gone.
Yeah, I do too. And then they'll probably look at somebody like Ben Johnson.
Do they want to pay Ben Johnson? Remember, the reports are last offseason, he wanted $15 million.
That's outrageous. But I think this team is ready to win now. And I think
absolutely.
They will put money to whoever they need to in order to get to that achievement.
They might. So that was the big story last night that I saw floating around on Twitter was the rumor mill, according to a known and trusted NFL reporter, is that Nick Sirianni could be gone. And I buy it. I do.
I'm also seeing that Zeke Elliott is coming to the Eagles before the playoffs. So
well, that ain't happening.
There's a lot of rumors being speculated right now.
I'd much rather see Kenny Gainwell than Zeke Elliott.
100%.
There's not much more I hated than
the belly shirt and the
the belly shirt. Yeah. By the way, do you think football guys ever use straws?
No.
Yeah, right. I was listening to you talk, and I was like,
Yeah, that's not a football guy move, man.
Football guys don't use straws. Do football guys even do iced coffee?
I don't even think they use lids.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, they just go no lid.
Do they do iced coffee?
No, hot.
It's got to be. Why?
Hot, black.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah. I'm iced coffee all year round.
You are not a football guy.
I guess not. Damn. I just realized that while taking a big old swig. It's hard to look cool with a straw.
Yeah. And you got the tumbler, too. You don't need the straw.
I don't like a little Phillies tumbler from the girls from my birthday.
Very nice.
I don't like drinking out of these lids.
Why is that?
There's always a little dribble either down my chin or down
that's just you. That's a you problem.
It might be a me problem, but I don't like it, and I got a straw.
I never get the dribble, so,
Yeah, but I can't do a hot coffee with a straw.
Yeah, no, you can't. That would be weird.
Disgrace to football guys
really
everywhere.
Weird,
so there you have it. Nick Sirianni on the hot seat. Call in and react now. Yeah. But, when Jeremy Fowler talks, I do pay attention a little bit there. A couple other Eagles things to mention. I saw this tweet. I think it was Field Yates yesterday. And it's a kudos to Howie Roseman and the front office of the Eagles team and how well this team is run and prepared for the future. And, I think this upcoming draft, there's a strong possibility you start looking for that right tackle of the future, potentially, depending on where you're drafting and how the board falls and all that, because you want to be a year or two ahead of, Lane Johnson. And this is evidence of it. No, Siri, I don't want to call anybody. Leave me alone.
It's because you said Nick Sirianni.
Said Linda. I don't even think I know a Linda.
Who's Linda?
I don't know. But a kudos to Howie Roseman and the front office for the way they run the Eagles. The tweet yesterday was, last offseason, the Eagles lost 2 Hall of Fame players in Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce. And what did they do? They went out and replaced it basically with Jalen Carter and Cam Jurgens, both of whom were named to Pro Bowls yesterday. to not skip a beat in that fashion, to go from 2 Hall of Fame players to 2 Pro Bowl players. And I know Pro Bowl is a little bit of a popularity contest, maybe not the most meaningful thing in the world, but to skip no beats and just go from Hall of Fame to Pro Bowl is really an admirable thing that the Eagles were able to do there. It's a credit to everybody in that organization. It's a credit to Jeff Stoutland, Howie Roseman, the scouts, even Jason Kelsey for basically handpicking Cam Jurgens. But really, really remarkable stuff. That's something that very few franchises around the NFL can do.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, last year was outstanding what they were able to do and getting those corners and how they fell to them.
Yeah.
I mean, have Quinyon Mitchell here and Cooper DeJean. I don't think this draft, and we'll get into it later in the year, but, I don't think it's going to be that exciting one because I think it's going to be kind of like you're saying, you're planning for the future. A couple guys on that line are going to be going. So you want to bolster that rank. You want to get those guys ready and replenished. Obviously, everybody under the sun would love to have Tyler Warren come here.
Yeah, it's not happening.
But we're going to be the 32nd pick, so that's not going to happen.
You know what this draft is, and Fran Duffy's coverage leading up to the draft from now, we're going to start in hyperdrive pretty soon with him, is going to be tremendous and worth a diehard membership. From all of you out there, I promise you. If you're an NFL draft junkie, you're going to want to subscribe and become a diehard because the stuff Fran's going to give you is top-notch across the nation, all sports media.
Dude's smart.
He is one of the best. This draft is class. I was looking at it last night during the game because obviously Love with Notre Dame got a little dinged up in the game. But the running back class this year coming out is filthy.
Yeah,
I mean, just the 2 from Penn State that Notre Dame is going to face in Singleton and Catron, they're 2 of 20 guys. You're going to have Scattaboo and all these guys, the kid from Oklahoma State. There's going to be so many good running backs in this draft. I wonder if the Eagles, I know Shipley's here and a 4th-round pick and the whole Zach and Bo.
But if somebody's there.
But if somebody in the 3rd or 4th round is there that they're excited by,
yeah,
I could see them getting another running back here and just getting a year or 2 ahead of Saquon. So just a kudos to the Eagles front office there. Cam Jurgens and Jalen Carter get named to the Pro Bowl after replacing 2 Hall of Fame players. So the game this weekend, on a scale of 1 to 10, Andrew, what's your excitement level for the? I'm going to be working it, so I have to manufacture a little bit of excitement.
Yeah.
You as a impartial outsider, you're not working with us this weekend, right?
I am not.
So what's your excitement level on 1 to 10?
Honesty.
A 1?
Honesty, 4.
4? Okay.
Yeah, 4.
That's a good football guy answer by you.
The excitement doesn't come from the game. The excitement comes from playoffs are here.
Yeah.
And I am so ready to see this team just go in there and dominate.
Yeah, so I'm going to be here working with Bo, Fran, and Vinny, and Zach will be joining us from the stadium as always. So we're going to be, live watching the game, and I have to manufacture some level of excitement for it. Otherwise, I'll just get bored. I do think there's some backups that are worth paying attention to this weekend that I'm going to be focused on. And the guys I wrote down last night in thinking about it, these are the guys I'm most excited to see. Axeman Jr., I want to see a full game of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and how he performs. We've only gotten bits and pieces of him, even splitting time with Oren Burks, last week when N'Kobe was out. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Trotter Jr. can do for an entire game. Some other guys, Isaiah Rodgers, a full game of him. I'd like to see what he can do. Ojomo, who has shown some flashes. I think he's 22 years old still.
Yeah.
Young guy is going to get a lot of opportunity this weekend. And then Tyler Steen. There's a reality where Mekhi Becton is gone next year. We'll see if he has loyalty to Jeff Stoutland and the Eagles. But Mekhi Becton probably made himself some money in this league. And when you look at the upcoming offseason between Zach Bond and his Pro Bowl, Mekhi Becton's going to be a free agent and Milton Williams is going to be a free agent. There's a world where Becton is the 3rd most prioritized of those guys.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So Tyler Steen could be a guy going into next year that is counted on to be the right guard. So I think Tyler Steen is certainly one to pay attention to on Sunday.
Did you see the Becton? Did you see the video of him on the sidelines and the whole team coming up to him
I
and
haven't
congratulating
watched it yet,
him?
but it was in Rich's morning newsletter, which, by the way, you should sign up for. It's awesome and it's free. It's a lot of Mailata, right?
It's a lot of Mailata. It's the whole. It's the whole team, and it's just another thing that solidifies this team as just they are there for each other, and this locker room is like. They have such a strong bond that, like, it's such a good feeling to see that and to see, them going into the playoffs because it just reminds me a lot of 2017 and how connected that team was and congratulating each other, always being there for each other, having each other's backs. And I love that brotherhood. I love seeing that. And, I hope Becton is here, in the next couple of years because he's a great player.
Yeah, and him walking off the field after winning, the division and all that and crying and just kind of realizing, like, I salvaged my career here.
Yeah.
There is a reality where, there is a hometown discount or a Stoutland University discount because, if he doesn't go to the right situation this year, his NFL career could have been over before, he even realized it. So,
and he made a statement, that last press conference he had with the Jets where he said, like, I'm going to make you guys eat your words.
Yeah.
And he did. He made them eat their words. He's been outstanding.
He's a massive human being.
Huge.
That is a huge head.
There was this last game, Kenny Pickett ran into him, and Kenny Pickett, literally, no joke, was the size of his leg. I was like, I put it out to my buddy when we were watching the game. I'm like, dude, did you see that?
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
By the way, Kenny Pickett, I'm not a huge country music fan, but he looks exactly like Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, he's got a little look to him.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Side note there.
It's the lettuce.
Yeah, I guess it's the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the guys I'm looking forward to watching this weekend. We'll talk to Tyler Zulli here in a second about who he's looking forward to watching. But somewhat meaningless game. The more meaningful thing this weekend is, are we going to get the Commanders or are we going to get the Packers?
I think it's the Packers.
You think it's the Packers?
I don't think the Commanders are going to play any of their starters.
Well, it depends if they want to avoid Philadelphia or not.
I think they want to avoid Philadelphia. I think if you had to pick the Rams or the Eagles, I think you're picking the Rams.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's welcome him in here. Tyler Zulli, fresh off the John Mark Show. Hello, good morning, Tyler. Happy Friday.
Hello.
We made it. We were just talking.
I don't know if we've made. I'll be honest with you. This week's been weird. I felt like it's been Sunday for 4 days now.
Tyler, do football guys use straws?
What? You use whatever you want, Jamie. You're notoriously not a baseball guy. So you gotta be something, right?
Yeah, but I don't think football.
At some
guys
point,
use straws.
people are gonna be like, does Tyler hate Jamie? Every time he sees him, he says he's not a baseball guy. No, it's an inside joke between Jamie and I. I think it's still a joke. It might not be at this point, but yeah, welcome in, Tyler. Use whatever you want.
Yeah, I was just talking about with Andrew. It's week 18. I'm going to be here doing the pre, post, and halftime and all that with Fran, Bo, and Vinny.
Well, hold on. The Eagles don't have to play their starters. Why do you guys have to play?
That's a great point. I have to manufacture some excitement for this game. And I was sitting there last night thinking about today's show, and I was like, all right, who am I looking forward to seeing this weekend? Mm-hmm. Because the Eagles do have good depth. It's the sign of a great franchise. And there's a couple guys I wrote down. I wanted to see if there's any more that you're excited to see this weekend. The four I came up with were Tyler Steen, because I think there's a situation where he could be your starting right guard next year, depending on how the market shapes up. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing a full game out of him and what he can give you. Isaiah Rodgers and Ojomo on the defensive line is going to have an opportunity here to probably play, the good majority of snaps. Those are the four I'm going to be looking at. I think Ojomo and Steen are the top of that list. I think Tyler Steen, I really want to pay attention to and see how he plays. But those are my four. Is there anybody else that's kind of I don't want to say make too much of it, but looking forward. Yeah,
my immediate one is more Ojomo, because to me,
he's promising as hell.
If you get anything out of a 6th or 7th round or undrafted free agent, I think that's significant. And the Eagles over the last couple of years have gotten productivity from guys in that realm. And if Ojomo can be the next guy up, you're talking about him. You're talking about Blankenship. You're starting to put together a collective of talent that is affordable for now, right?
Yeah.
These guys are all going to get paid if they play well. They're affordable. They were, kind of diamond in the rough type of guys. But that's the type of guy that you get excited about in the preseason.
Yeah.
Now getting, meaningful
For him, it's
regular
meaningful,
season snaps, of course. The other one to me, I would like to see, because he's gotten better and better and better as the year goes on, and I was not a fan of the pick. I'll be honest with you. I was like, this feels like a reach and a project. But I want to see how many snaps Jalix Hunt gets.
No, that's a good one.
Because to me,
he's been impressive.
He's been very, very good. It's a little bit of a slow start. I expected there to be like a feeling out process for him coming from Houston. Was it Houston Baptist? Small,
of course,
small
football
school,
powerhouse.
Really good athlete. A guy that really just started playing the defensive end position a handful of years ago.
Yeah.
It's going to take a maturation process for this guy to become, close to an every down edge rusher, like maybe a 2-down edge rusher. I don't know if he's going to be a run stuffing edge rusher, but a pass rush type of edge rusher. He's the type of guy that I would get excited to see in a more expansive role. After that, I think you kind of know what you've got from most of your depth. Like Fred Johnson was a really good under the radar addition for this team as your swing tackle. Jack Driscoll's been around for a while. Tyler Steen's a good one, I think, to see him get significant.
Yeah, because he could be a starter next year if Mekhi Becton gets paid and leaves.
Yeah, but I think that there's a handful of guys that, and then like we've seen Tristan McCollum in spots.
Yeah,
and
he's looked good. He's
been
looked
okay.
Bad.
He's had times where he's looked a step slow. He's been times where he's looked like he belongs. I think Bo is a big Tristan McCollum guy, if I remember correctly.
I was,
maybe you were.
Yeah.
I would like to see what he can provide in more significant minutes. This is going to feel like a preseason game.
And Sidney Brown's an interesting one in that he kind of got jumped by Tristan McCollum, which I don't think people saw coming because the draft capital used, and McCollum kind of had the better preseason. Now, Brown was coming off a knee injury, in fairness.
Pretty significant injury.
Yeah, but McCollum has kind of outplayed him this year. So Sidney Brown's probably going to get a big opportunity. I would imagine Reed Blankenship hits the pine as well. So he'll be one that...
Well, like we talked about yesterday, somebody's got to play.
Yeah, somebody does have to play. And there we are. And before we take a quick break here, Tyler, the rumor coming out last night, Jeremy Fowler, I just want to know if you buy or sell this rumor, is that according to those in the Eagles, I forget how it was phrased, universe or circles, say that if the Eagles were to lose one playoff game, Nick Sirianni could be done.
Yeah, it's a total sell for me. The guy is almost 25 games over 500 in his career. The first Eagles head coach to ever have 2 13-win seasons under his belt, and then this year to do it in people will complain about the 17th game. To do it in the 16-game realm, I think, if you want to have does that whole water conversation, I think it does to do it in the 16-game realm that a lot of the other coaches had. Now, granted, you could go back to the 50s and 60s where they were playing 12 games and then 14 games. And then
back when it was real football.
But my point is,
Leatherhead
Andy
football.
Andy Reid's the greatest coach in the history of this franchise, right? Undeniable.
If he gets like 1 or 2 more Super Bowls, I think you can just say the greatest coach ever.
And he's playing on that, right? He might be heading towards being the best coach of 2 different organizations, which is unbelievable.
Not many people
say.
get to say that.
So when you start to line those things up, like Nick Sirianni, for the faults that he's had, and I have bashed Nick Sirianni a lot.
I fired him last offseason.
There was a lot of people had that feel of firing him last offseason. A lot of people
I did it right here on the airwaves.
A lot of people had that feel of doing it. If they lose to the Browns, is he done? Like, that was a conversation that people were having. I gave him a lot of flack for the way that his coaching staff, and I was mad at Fangio too, the way that they handled the Atlanta game.
No, you should have been mad at is that rat fink Jonathan Gannon.
Well,
because Vic Fangio should have been here 2 years ago. Rotten hell, Gannon.
Well, a different conversation. And here's the thing with the Fangio hire. My question was, you have these Fangio disciples. What changes between a Fangio disciple and Fangio? Like, in terms of scheme and things like that. Clearly, I was wrong. Big time wrong. But I think that Nick Sirianni has earned a lot of leeway with this organization. Now, last year ended poorly, and we can all agree that that's the case. But I think he's earned a lot of leeway with the fact that this team wins with him as the head coach. Now, it's a lot of talent on the field, and that's part of the reason as to why they win.
I think that's why it would be the hot seat. This is a Super Bowl caliber roster. And if they were to lose at home, that's why I do buy it a little bit. Look, Doug Peterson got fired 12 months after doing something no other coach had done.
Sure.
I think there's I
don't have that
short leash in this
I had
day
a
and age.
feel for the end of the Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson era, though. I don't have that. Like, even if there were to be a loss, I don't think I would have that feel. Like, I can pinpoint.
Oh, I can fire him again.
I could pinpoint a game that I thought
could
Carson
totally see
Wentz
that.
was done in Philly.
Yeah.
It was the game in Cleveland. That was the exact game that I went, nope, he's it. That's over. This thing's done. I wouldn't have that feel. I think that Nick Sirianni's earned himself a lot of
In a
credence.
fair world, he absolutely has. This is not a fair world. No. Let's take a quick break.
I knew I was doing something wrong. Put way too much faith in.
There's no fairness
in other people, I guess.
Yeah. No, there's no fairness. All right, let's take a quick break here at PHLY to tell you about some of our friends. And that's our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. They're headquartered in Fort Washington, right down the road from me, and they have 24 area locations all over the place. And you need to have a credit union on your side because it's hard to win without proper coaching. And I love what TrueMark Financial Credit Union has done with the Green Light app. As the father of 2 young girls, I wish I could have grown up with some better financial literacy and independence and freedom as a young kid. And the Greenlight app gives you that coaching tool to help your kids understand the ultimate playbook for financial literacy and learning about saving. The Greenlight app is helping kids and teens learn how to earn, save, and spend their money wisely. You can set up saving goals, track their spending, and even get an allowance all right there on the Greenlight app that you control from your phone. Each kid gets their own debit card, so they feel like a big person, big adult with a debit card, and you can control their purchases right there from your phone. You get the peace of mind, and they get the freedom to make smart decisions with their money. It's coaching your kids through their own financial game, and it's free for TrueMark Financial members. So with the holidays over and 2025 starting up, now's the perfect time to introduce your kids to Greenlight. Get signed up today. Visit TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more information.
And just because the holiday season's over doesn't mean you can't treat somebody or yourself to an incredible pair of sunglasses. And you do that with our friends over at Shady Rays, because 300,000 people can't be wrong, right? 300,000 people and more, including myself, have rated Shady Rays 5 stars for incredible durable frames and crystal clear optics. I've been telling you guys for a while now, like, you know me, I suffer through migraines. I get headaches. I need my sunglasses on the dreariest of days because any kind of light, I'm cooked. Shady Rays is the reason that I'm here most days, because I wear my shades home from work. I wear them when I'm outside. I wear them when I take a walk. Whatever the case may be, I've got my Shady Rays on because not only are they an incredible fit, I think they look good, but they also kind of keep me upright when I'm outside. And the best thing is, if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't worry about it. They have the best replacement plan in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by a lost or broken replacement guarantee. And if you buy your pair online and you don't love them when they get to your door, you've got 30 days to replace them or send them back worry-free and return-free for up to 30 days. So there is no risk for you when you shop. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the year. Head on over to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. And again, try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
And if you're a boarder or a skier, unlike me, they have really nice goggles.
Yeah.
So check them out. Like really nice goggles.
Are you
Andrew, I don't know about you, but like when I see snow, my eyes go into panic mode.
So bright.
And like the board, because they're the ones that kind of like wrap around a little further. They give you the peripheral. They're the way to go.
Are you a boarder or a skier?
I do both.
I shred the pow on both, brah.
Yeah, I started on skis. My dad was actually part of the Special Olympics. He coached
Really?
for the Special Olympics when he was younger. So he taught me how to ski.
Okay.
But then I moved into the snowboarding.
Which do you like?
I like to snowboard more. It's cooler. The ladies like it.
Yeah, you do it. Chicks dig the snowboard.
Yeah, you want to go
Chicks dig the long ball, chicks
Yeah.
dig the snowboard.
Yeah.
I'm a skier. I was just having this conversation recently.
Are you a skier or have you skied? Because there's a difference. Like, I've skied. I would never classify myself as a skier.
That doesn't ski very often.
Okay.
I used to ski a lot more when I was younger.
Okay.
I was having this conversation with one of my buddies recently, and he's a huge snowboarder and takes his kids to Spring Mountain every Wednesday night. They have some special and all that. And I was like, yeah, I want to get my girls skiing. It's just so much work.
It's also so expensive.
It's so expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive.
For
But, like,
skis, oh my
just
gosh.
Rental, lift.
You gotta have a lot of energy. Like
All
you gotta
day.
lug all your kids' stuff and like everything in boots and like getting out to the mountain and getting them on the lift. It's just a lot.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you gotta like love it. And
Yeah,
I don't
really
know if
do.
it's just like I don't want to carry all like 3 sets of skis,
Well,
you know,
it's-
like
it's
And
one
you're
of those-
doing that. You will be doing that.
Yeah, like I'm out. I think I'm out.
Now, Andrew, you're more into it obviously than I am. So maybe you will do this, but it's one of those things where I'm not doing it. Like you can't call me up tomorrow and be like, "Yo, you want to go skiing?" The answer is no. You got to give me like 3 weeks notice
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, "Okay, we're going on January January 25th. We're going that Saturday. Be there." Okay, I'll be there. But if you call me up and we're like, "Yo, dude, you want to go skiing tomorrow?" Nah, I'm good, thanks.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely not that way. I need to notice as well. But
Yeah.
it's lovely.
So, but you're with me. Like it's a
Yeah.
lot of work. It's a little borderline pain in the ass.
Yes.
And then they want to get all the snacks and like it's just like
Yeah.
they get tired after a half hour and you're like, I just spent an hour getting out here.
Spent like $100 on a ticket, and you're like, "Come on."
I want to go home. I'm cold.
These
Like,
2
let's
more
get
runs.
home. Yeah, it's like maybe when you're like 10, 11, 12 and like can carry your own stuff.
Yeah.
You know, maybe then. Anyway, all right, Tyler, I want to do actually, why don't you tell us who this half hour is brought to you by?
This segment is brought to us by our friends over at Bet Parks and the Bet Parks Sportsbook. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet at Bet Parks. Must be 21 and in PA or New Jersey. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah, we'll talk to Brad Feinberg coming up here in about 15 minutes. We got a little Saturday football, and we're going to do a little bit of a headline segment here, Tyler. And, of course, part of that headline segment is going to be last night's Sugar Bowl.
Well, I need to point out one thing. Andrew, you're not sneaky. I see the wording you used on the ticker down the bottom. It's
Oh, you see that?
Notre Dame silences the haters or something like that. Like, what? Come on. You're not sneaky.
Oh, yeah, notoriously hated on Notre
But they're
Dame.
not in a conference, so
Or
they're not that great.
America's team. Yeah. You're basically the Cowboys of college football. And I'm an Irishman, you know? Like, I should love Notre Dame.
You
and
should. It's in your blood.
I don't hate
It's
Notre
a
Dame.
French school.
It's just like, I don't know. I never really, like, felt
Notre
it.
Dame is French.
That is
Well,
true.
yes, but they're the Fighting Irish, Tyler. Newt Rockne. Touchdown Jesus. Like, it is
Yeah,
cool.
man,
The
come on.
uniforms are great.
Oh, that gold and blue.
Yeah. Like,
They're objectively nice. And the chrome that they've got on the helmets now, I think is nice.
My
Really
dad bought me
nice.
a Rick Meyer jersey when I was a young lad.
There you go.
I just never felt it. I don't know. I'm not a hater. I'm not a lover. I cheer for Penn State more than I cheer for Notre Dame, but it's going to be a pretty epic bowl game. What is that, next Thursday?
Yeah, next Thursday will
next
be the
Thursday.
Orange Bowl. Next Friday is the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
It's a good game last night.
It was a good game last night, and I want to talk to Fran about one play in particular. Do you know what play I would like to talk to him about?
I'm trying to think, who do you like? I'm trying
like
to
Marcus
'cause I'm
Freeman.
trying to get in your head about
And I like the middle finger to like Brian Kelly. Like he abandoned them because he thought basically he couldn't win there.
Sure.
And now Marcus Freeman's just like, yeah, take that.
Well, anytime you and I have a college football conversation, there's an Eagles twist
No,
somewhere.
it's not an
So
Eagles
I was
twist.
going to say, like,
This is
which of
just-
these players do you like?
It's more a legality question and possibly
I
a
don't know.
loophole.
I don't know then.
Are you talking about the special teams player?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Marcus Freeman busts out a punt on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter where they're on their, I forget, roughly 15, 16, maybe
Yeah.
inside the 20, around the
They're
20.
inside the 20.
Yeah, like right short of the 20. Did you see this?
No,
where
so
he did the on
Was
the
this early in the fourth quarter?
No, I
No,
think
it's
it was
late.
kind of late.
It's
Like
kinda-
6
I
minutes.
must have just straight up
it's a
missed it
game
then.
sealer, really.
Yeah. So the punt unit, see if you can find a video of it on Twitter
will.
real
I'll
quick.
look
I
it
meant
up.
to actually send that to you. So Marcus Freeman, I think he exploited a loophole. It was pretty cool, but I don't know if it should be legal.
Well, so I will say this. I think it's incredible when coaching staffs and players are like
Yes.
fully on top of the like.
I'm
not,
with you.
Not the
like
rules
Dan
that,
Lanning and
Yes.
Oregon's
not
exploitation
the rules
of
that
the
everybody knows, but like the nuanced stuff where like Dan Lanning takes the
I'm with you.
intentional penalty to have the runoff, the like lay in bounds on the kickoff, but have
Yeah,
your
yeah,
feet out of bounds and grab it to get the out of bounds kickoff rule, like those type of things. When you see a player or a coach do that, I'm like, That's a guy who knows the rule book. Like that's well done, well executed.
So I'll describe it to you while Andrew finds it. I'm sure he'll be able to find it because it was kind of a lot of people were talking about it on X last night. But basically, it was a 4th and 1 or 2 punt situation inside their own 20. Georgia special teams is out. Notre Dame special teams is out. They're lined up in a punt, and all of a sudden he does like an on-the-fly like shift change. It was almost like lacrosse or hockey where everybody just ran off the field and an offensive unit
line change.
Yeah, full on like just line change on the fly. No timeout, nothing. So the special teams unit leaves. The offense for Notre Dame comes on. And then Georgia and Kirby Smart, to their credit, was kind of on it. And I believe what the announcers were saying was that Georgia has to be
given the allowance to substitute because
to get
the
guys
offense
on and off
right.
the field.
It's why
I got it.
He's got it. So let's take a look at it.
Part of the portion of no huddle, right? Like
Yes.
that's why teams no huddle is to keep those.
But I'd never seen it on a special teams play like this before. Here's the play last night. I was anxious on my couch. I'm watching this and I was like, oh my God, get on the field, change. And I was because I did bet Georgia, so I was kind of cheering.
And that's been a problem most of the year.
So here it is. It was absolutely.
They average 128 rush yards per game, just 36 in the country.
Look at this.
Here's one of those Notre Dame special team situations are so creative.
To his credit, is like
They substitute, so Kirby Smart knows he has to be allowed to substitute. The officials stand in there. Leonard and the offense back out there. Will they really snap this and go for it with nearly 2 yards to go?
You have to imagine the Georgia
Play clock
players
at 3.
scrambling.
And now movement by Georgia, it seemed. There is a flag. Leonard.
Credit to Marcus Freeman for busting that out there in that spot. I mean, that takes some cojones.
Sure.
It feels like it shouldn't be legal, though. Like, that was my gut after I processed it all. I was like,
is your concern that they've already set up and like
Yes.
lined up and then they like shift change
it's
on
a
him?
shift change.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel natural to football. Do you know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying.
And that's just my gut reaction. Like, I'm open to it if it's cool. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, my gut tells me that like if a coach or a player is able to exploit the rule book like that, good on them.
But Dan Lanning's got the NCAA was like, oh no, we're gonna end that one. That's
Well, they
done.
might, and
So
they
might
may
end that.
they may end up changing this. But
Have
like,
you ever seen that before?
not in that capacity, no.
I've never seen anything like that. I was watching the game with my buddy, and I asked him like 5 times. I'm like, "Is that legal? Are they able to do
Everything
that?"
illegal.
I was
I
like
don't know.
so confused. I like
Yeah.
could not believe that they pulled that off. And then the flag came, and I thought the flag was for that.
No, but the Georgia
I
kid
didn't
jumped.
see the jump at first.
Dude, I was sitting there. I was so lucky yesterday. My girls all went out to lunch with my mom and mother-in-law and my wife, and then they went and saw Wicked. And Wicked was at 4, so I had like a 3-hour. Dude, I was home alone. It was awesome. And being the super husband that I am, I did some laundry, I cleaned.
There you
But I was watching.
Wow,
it,
look
and
at you.
Yeah.
Brownie points.
But I'm sitting there on my
The
couch.
super husband, he says.
Yeah, basically. Father of the year, husband of the year, whatever you want to call me. And I'm sitting there on my couch and like the anxiety took over. Like once Notre Dame's offensive unit was on the field and
All right.
Georgia was scrambling, I was sitting there like kind of like, oh my God. Like I was nervous for Georgia. So when the kid jumped on the line, I was like, yeah, no kidding, he jumped. He was probably freaking out.
So Frank Barber points this out in the chat, and I'm watching it again.
What
and-
up, Frank
And
Barber?
I'm staring at the exact play call that he mentions is the center doesn't line up, doesn't touch the ball, doesn't get set. Very intentional on that.
Yeah.
Because I wonder.
I guess once he touches the ball in his stance,
I would have to like look at the rule book to see, because like the way that I would equate it would be in baseball. If you're gonna run the hidden ball trick, you can't be on the rubber without the ball.
Yes.
So like you would see, and I'm going to try to like demonstrate this as best I can. So like here's the mound, right? And you run the hidden ball trick. If you line up on the inseam of the rubber, like on the mound, like you're going to pitch, it's a balk. You can't do that.
Sure.
So what guys will do is they'll put their plant leg on the outside heel of the mound, and that way you're not set and you can do whatever you want. I wonder if it's a similar like. I don't want to say loophole because it's not really a loophole.
It feels
but
like a
Feels
loophole.
like maybe it is. I wonder if it's a similar thing where as long as your center doesn't set, you're good.
I wonder how many other teams try to duplicate this. So I thought that was pretty cool overall. The game itself, I thought was pretty damn good.
It was a good game.
Riley Leonard was the entirety of the Notre Dame offense. Credit
As he's
to
been
him.
most of the year, him and Julian Love.
Yeah.
heels, man. And when he
Yeah.
jumped that flying Irish move, man, that was awesome.
By the way, Mrs. Leonard in the stands. What up? Oh, Riley's mom. She's an attractive lady.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, what up?
Gotta
But
go
overall,
back and
yeah,
check.
really good game. Georgia kind of plagued by drops all season long. I
Yeah.
think they ended up with 37 on the year, which led to college football. Gunner was okay.
It's okay.
The offensive line, I thought for Georgia, kind of let them down a little bit. Kudos to Notre Dame's D line.
What I thought was kind of telling with Gunner Stockton was late in the game, they're down 2 scores, and they were not pushing the ball downfield.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff near and at the line of scrimmage. 2nd and 10 with under 2 minutes to go, and they're running a bubble screen
Yeah.
to the outside, loses 3, clock runs. Like
I
right
don't know
there,
if they
I
didn't
went,
trust him or they didn't
yeah.
trust the receivers or
Probably
what.
both.
Yeah.
But
But overall, good game. Notre Dame earned it. And now, Tyler, Andrew,
Here we
Penn
go.
State, Notre Dame in the semifinals. SEC football is over. It's canceled. It's no good anymore.
Yeah.
It's Big Ten
Lane
versus...
Kiffin won last night, though. So
Dude, Jackson Dart looked good.
Lane, yeah, they played Duke, but
I bet the over. It was
you
fun.
should have. Ole Miss was going to hit it by themselves.
I think it was 51.5, I believe. I think Old Miss did hit it by themselves. But Jackson Dart made himself some money last night, I think. What do you guys think? Early reactions? Tyler, you picking Penn State? Andrew, you picking Notre Dame?
Of course.
So
This is a pretty cool
That's a
game.
shoe-in. Yeah.
You talk about like 2 iconic college football uniforms.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be really cool. I'm excited for this.
So my gut reaction is to take Notre Dame in this one.
Really?
It is, and the reason being is I
There
think
you go,
it's
Andrew.
two.
I
I
like
think it's
hearing that.
2 really good defenses. It's 2 really good run games. 2 different quarterbacks, very different stylistically. Riley Leonard will beat you with his legs more than his arm.
Yeah, Aller
Drew
actually
Allard's
throws the
more
ball.
of a pocket, a traditional pocket passer. I expected this line to be more.
I haven't
closer
looked
to,
at it.
What do you think it is?
Okay, that's a great question. All right, let's guess that line.
What do you think it is?
Where is the game being played? Not that it matters, like for the line.
Miami.
Miami. It's in
Yeah,
the
it's
Orange Bowl.
warm. It's outdoors.
It could rain.
Could rain. I would say Penn State -1.5.
Notre Dame -1.5.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Notre Dame is favored by 1.5. I would have thought it was going to be a little bit more. I would have
Really?
said 2.5 or 3.
Notre Dame.
For Notre Dame. The fact that it is 1.5, this is going to be a toss-up. I think this is going to be a very, very good game. That makes me feel a little more comfortable in taking Penn State.
Yeah.
You know what's very lethal for Notre Dame that they have that I don't think Penn State has is the special teams play. Like we saw that return yesterday for the touchdown. I think that like Notre
They
Dame
got that kid in the transfer portal. He's
Yeah,
like one of
Notre
the few.
Dame has a chance to break one on you at any point when it comes to special
Yeah.
teams.
Two good kickers in this one. Ryan Barker's been, it wasn't even the starter at the beginning of the year for Penn State, has been really, really good. Jeter, I know, dealt with a bunch of injuries, but when he's on, like he clearly was last night,
Sports analytic major.
a very good kicker. Yeah, I think that, it depends on who's returning kicks for Penn State. Like if they're going to use a Nick Singleton back there, you've got an explosive player. If they're going to shy away from that and go with who they use in the punt game, which is Zion Tracy, also has explosive capabilities. But I think it's a good special teams unit for Notre Dame. I think this is gonna be a really close game.
It is going to be an awesome game.
My gut tells me Notre Dame wins this game, but like 1.5 is less than I expected. And so with that being said,
I really thought Penn State would have been a slight favorite. I'm kind of surprised by that line, to be honest.
well, I mean, they are the 3 seed versus. And they're not the 3 seed; they're the 7 seed.
Yeah, the teams remaining are 5, 6,
Yeah, where
7,
are these
8.
numbers coming from?
Yeah, 5, 6. The first 4 seeds are all out.
Yeah, it's the 6 and the
happens when
7
you sit?
seed.
And here's like I gotta take everybody complaining about college football playoffs. Shut up. It's not perfect yet. They're gonna work on it. NFL playoffs have clunkers every year. I know some of the games stunk. I know they did. It was still awesome. It's better than the 14 playoff. Should automatic buys happen? Maybe not. They're going to expand the field. Everybody complaining about it, shut up. It's year 1. It was highly enjoyable. it's going to get better and it's going to get bigger and everybody's going to feel like an idiot in a couple years. I really enjoyed the college football playoffs.
I think it's been good. And here's the thing, like the 1-4 games in the 4-game playoffs were routinely not very good.
Yeah.
If you think about the teams that got beat and beat bad, think about the Iowas, the Michigan States. There's been a lot of really bad college football playoff games in a 4-team capacity. That was going to happen. I think that people are the thing that people have a justifiable anger and a justifiable case for
is the
Oregon, the number
State
one
seeding.
overall
Yes,
seed
that
should not have had to play Ohio State.
Yes, that was very unfair to Oregon. And I think there's tweaks.
There's
going to
be those kind of tweaks.
Yes, absolutely.
Like if you think about it, who was the best of the teams that
didn't win the conference?
Didn't win the conference.
It was Ohio State.
Ohio State,
yeah.
Right? And then I think there's a case to be made that number 2 was Penn State.
Yeah.
Of teams that were in conferences,
sure.
Right? So like Arizona State wins the Big 12, deserve it of a bye. Boise State wins the Mountain West. If you're going to play in the NFL realm of win your conference, get a bye, for the most part, right. Clemson did not, but like for the most part,
get a bye.
My point being is, if that's the case, I have no problem with it. But then the return of seeding, like Ohio State's too good.
Yes,
for to win the Big Ten tournament, and your gift to win the Big Ten tournament
is to play Ohio State. It's
Meanwhile, Penn State loses the Big Ten, tournament, Big Ten
and
championship,
and
plays SMU and Boise State. Now, granted, you have the ability to get the bye, which is nice. I'll always take a bye in football, but the matchups weren't the same.
All right, let's take a quick break before we get to the grind with Brad Feinberg here and tell you about some more friends at PHLY.
Yeah, including our friends over at the Bet Parks Sportsbook. We've been telling you about Bet Parks for a while. They sponsored our last segment, and we were telling you about the 1.5 line that was the college football action heading into the final 4 teams remaining. To stop there, you can get in on all of the pro football, pro basketball, pro hockey, and college hoops as well, because my school, all of a sudden, Jamie, they're 11-2 in college basketball play. Who would have ever thought? But you can get in on all of the action. You can play all of the games, including exciting online slots. You can do that with the click of a button in the palm of your hand. You don't have to leave your couch. And new users, download the BetParks online casino app and sportsbook and get up to $1,000 in casino bonus back if you're down in your first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. You can see all of the lines, the action, and of course, everything that you need to know at betparks.com for all of the details. You do have to be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet with BetParks.
If you were watching the John Mark show today, you probably noticed his beautiful coif of hair, his beard. It's magnificent. And he owes a lot of it, if not all of it, to Glatt Hair Restoration. You've been hearing him talk about Dr. Glatt for a long time. Well, Dr. Glatt formed a super team. He joined up with Dr. Morgenstern, who's a nationally recognized specialist and among the few surgeons in the country who is trained in oculofacial plastic surgery. They formed a super team at Glatt Hair Restoration, and each member of their staff is exceptionally trained with 30-plus years of experience, leaders in the industry, and Glatt Hair can help during all stages of hair loss with leading-edge treatments for prevention and restoration, including laser light therapy, non-invasive TED treatments, vitamin supplementation, topical and oral medication, PRP and stem cell restoration, and hair restoration surgery. And each patient will receive a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment. And caring patient advocates work with you from the first phone call through the end, and they understand it can be an emotional and challenging time, and they're there to help make your experience the best. Bald is now optional, and if you want to improve how you look and feel about yourself, Glatt Hair has the right treatment plan for you. Regain your confidence. Visit glatthairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. All right. Welcome back in here to the Anthony Gargano Show. Sans Anthony Gargano. But you know what we got for you? We still got the brain.
Brain. Red, the brain finder.
Brought to us by the Bet Parks and the Bet Parks Sportsbook. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Bet Parks. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
Doing great, man. We were just talking about the Alabama-Notre Dame game last night, Brad. I was on the wrong side with Georgia.
Yeah,
Luckily
so
made
was
that
I.
back with an Ole Miss over later. But overall, thought it was a really good game. Our boy Gunnar Stockton didn't really lead them as much as we would have hoped as Georgia backers. But a good game overall. What were your thoughts on it?
You know, it's interesting. So much of sports to me is just, especially in these big games, just comes down to a few plays. Either they just go your way or they don't. And if you think about it, 0-0, I think it was late in the first quarter. ETN was going in there like they're gonna have the ball first and goal at the 9-yard line. He fumbles. Costs them either 3 or 7 points. Then you see at the end of the half a pick six, or basically not a fumble. I'm sorry, a fumble with Stockton at his own 15-yard line. They gave them 7 points. Then you see a kickoff return to start the second half. 17 points, and literally, I think it was 30 seconds. I thought Georgia was the better team. I thought they outplayed Notre Dame. They didn't win, but I know it sounds crazy. I don't look at the score of the game. I look at what should have happened. I feel if they played again, Georgia would beat them. I just feel like Notre Dame made the plays they had to make. Credit to them, and they did do that. And look, to me, the right side here was the under. Both offenses to me, which I thought would happen. I thought it would be a lower scoring game, and it was. But both defenses really kind of had their way. But I didn't think Notre Dame could do even a lick offensively, besides Leonard, who had success running the ball, but they couldn't do anything. But again, they made the plays they had to make. They made the key turnovers. Credit to them, So because of that, they deserve to win, and they move on against Penn State, which should be, in my opinion, a really good game.
Yeah, Brad, you were like 40 seconds away and that interception away from being dead spot on with the 6-3 first half you predicted yesterday. Ends up being 13-3, but an incredible defensive showing. 44.5, 45.5 was kind of where that line sat. You took the under. You liked the low scoring first half. So kudos to you. Yeah. You were spot on with both those picks.
Yeah, look, the under, again, I thought it was going to be a lower scoring game. And again, as I said, look, but in games like that, guys, I mean, you guys know this, you guys are smart guys, you really need to, you can't, in a game like that where points are going to be at a premium, you can't give up a touchdown return on a kickoff. You can't fumble the ball when you're going in for a touchdown. And you can, in essence, give up a fumble recovery at your own 10-yard. I mean, they theoretically gave them, let's call it at most 21 points, worst case 13, right? Because the kickoff return is 7, the 2 fumbles either going to cost you 3 or 7. So they cost themselves between 13 and 21 points. And the final score of the game, I think, was 23-10. So that was the difference. But again, credit to Notre Dame. I do like Freeman a lot as a coach. They said that play was illegal. Did you guys remember the play with the kickoff? I mean, the punt?
Yeah.
Kirby Smart was furious about that. He goes, we discussed that with the referees a ton, and we were told that was illegal to do. They still caught him on the hard count. So you got to give Notre Dame credit. It's amazing to me that players still fall for that. It's that they're going to do the hard count. You know it. It's like the Charlie Brown when he moves the ball he moves his finger out of the ball, and the guy it falls on his face. But they're going to do that hard count. Yet players still fall for it. So again, credit to Freeman for coming up with that. I was impressed.
So Brad, looking ahead to next week, Notre Dame slight favorite in this matchup. What's your early gut read on Penn State Notre Dame semifinals?
It's funny. When I looked at this game, I said to myself, I had these teams ranked dead even in my hand, in my power rings. But I said to myself, I trust Freeman as a coach more than Franklin. So I made Notre Dame a 1.5.
You were right on.
It came in at. To me, again, I just do trust Freeman more than I trust James Franklin. Look, I don't think either. Again, this year in college football, guys, has been frustrating to me in the sense that I don't know if you agree, but I think this has been, in terms of just how good teams are, the worst year I can ever. And I'm literally going back. I've been following this stuff. Let's call it conservatively 45 years. I don't recall a year where I like that team, like with Joe Burrow when they had Chase and Jefferson, that these teams will be favored by 2 touchdowns over any of these teams. Like, to me, these are not really great college football teams. In this landscape, they're getting it done because there's just there's just nothing that's that spectacular. But I don't think either of these teams are that good at all. Penn State has an easier time scoring for sure. But again, I do trust the coaching staff more of Notre Dame. Again, Penn State has more chances to score because I do trust Auer more, and I trust Leonard at least in terms of throwing the ball. But I think this is going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's more or less the right number. The total sitting at guys 46.5 right now. I thought it'll come in between 45.5 and 47, 46.5. I think it's kind of the right number in that game, honestly. Slightest to slight leans for me. I think Notre Dame will find a way to win a close game, but not a game I'm planning on betting.
It almost feels like this, and granted, you play to win the game, right? That's the cliche of all time, but it almost feels like this is the congratulations for making it, here's Ohio State type of game where they're kind of, they to me at this point feel like, if you want to talk about that team, which I agree with you, I don't think there's that team, that feels like the team that would be the front runner for this whole thing.
Well, listen, obviously you're correct, and let's just look at the lines, because if this game was played before the tournament started, I think the line would be much closer to a pick. So it's been a severe adjustment. But again, I always say I try not to have the recency bias, right? Because this is still the same Ohio State team that just on Thanksgiving area went against Michigan and legitimately got outplayed. It was not a fluke. They got outplayed. They lost, and they should have lost by more than they even lost by. So this is not like, to me, I'm trying not to like, they again, I watched them against Nebraska get outplayed. So this to me is not a team that's like unbeatable. Okay. Now, again, I think this team is far better when they let Howard pass the ball and use the receivers they have. Against Michigan, I thought they fell into that trap of, oh, we're going to be out physical you because Michigan kept saying how we're the more physical team. And I think that got in Day's head and maybe Chip Kelly's head where they try to do something that they're not. Texas, to me, has the wrong quarterback playing. And if they switch quarterbacks, I feel like their entire team could change. But that's obviously not going to happen. I don't like Ewers. He made a couple good throws at the end of that game. Look, for me, though, in this game, if I had to bet this game, I think this line is a little bit too high. It's sitting at 6.5 range. If it gets to 7, I'm absolutely going to play Texas. Don't think it's going to get to 7. But I certainly lean Texas because, yes, I understand that it's easy to take Ohio State, right? You see them just blowing out Oregon. You see them blowing out Tennessee. You're like, how can I not take them? That's the comfort food right now. But I'm trying to go by more the body of work. And the body of work, to me, this line should be nowhere near that. But if you're looking at just the last 2 weeks, yeah, it should probably be more than that. So depends what you're putting more premise on. The 13 games you've seen as a whole or just the last 2?
Brad, how does one handicap a week 18 in NFL football? So many starters out, some guys playing for incentives. What are you kind of looking at this weekend?
Well, it's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. I'm going to tell you the stuff that I bet. Okay. I bet Seattle plus 2.5 against the Rams on the open. They're now laying 6.5. Why did I do that? Because I knew that Sean McVay treats these preseason games, and basically this is in essence a preseason game. He doesn't play anyone. I knew this line would move drastically, so I'm going to make a big bet on Seattle getting points here. I made a big bet on Washington -3 against Dallas because when I looked at this game, I said to myself, this game is massive for Washington, absolutely massive, and the line has since gone up. I don't think people realize how important the game was to Washington. The line's now 6.5. And the Arizona game. I took Arizona laying 2.5 against San Francisco. That's now up to 4.5 because I figured watching that game, I saw Purdy leave injured at the end. So I try to just be a step ahead versus a step behind, so to speak, and anticipating stuff. Now, the 2 plays I did play where the lines have not really moved, where I do have a bet on Pittsburgh +3, still +2. I still like it. I think the wrong side's favored in that game, guys. You can still get +2 on Parks. With the Steelers, I don't understand why the Bengals are getting this much love. They were, again, same thing happened when they played in Cincinnati. Pittsburgh was getting points and Pittsburgh beat them. I think Pittsburgh's going to beat them again. I think they're the better team. And the other game, you can get 3 points still on Parks. Parks is like the only site that has getting 3 still, and I recommend it. I think Minnesota-Detroit is a dead 50-50 game. I don't see any edge at all for Detroit, not even this much. I think the game should be, I think Minnesota's the better team. The game's in Detroit. I think it's a 50-50 game. I made the game. I knew it wouldn't come in at pick, but I made it a pick. And I said to myself, if I can get 3, I'm going to make a big bet on Minnesota because I think the game should be close. Look, it's going to be high scoring, but I think the game should be close, and I absolutely think Minnesota has a 50% chance to win. I'll take the 3 points.
Yeah, Brad, you couldn't see me there. I just raised my arms up because I took Minnesota +3 as well in this one. And to me,
a good bet.
I like their run defense, and I think if they can at least slow Jahmyr Gibbs down a little bit, I think that gives them maybe a slight advantage. It is going to be strange, though, to see a 14-win team end up not only not getting the bye, but being a team playing on the road in the first round of the playoffs.
It's not. Listen, it's not fair. It's like we all know it's not fair, but that's just the way that it is. But listen, but the part that is fair is right. They're basically saying, okay, listen, this is it. Like, we have a chance to really get that number 1 seed, whether it's Detroit or Minnesota. Look, from Detroit's point of view, I give Campbell so much credit in the sense that they're literally, I think they've had 14 defensive players go on IR. I have to think this is the worst defense in the NFL. I mean, you give me any defense, I would take them over this version of Detroit. I think it is the worst. I don't think I've ever seen a defense this bad. They can't get anyone to ever punt. Everyone you eat, maybe they'll get a lucky turnover. No one punts against this defense. So to me, it just puts an incredible amount of pressure on their offense. But listen, Goff has been that good. Their offense is just perfect. They have the best offensive line. They have a quarterback in this system who's perfect for them. They have tremendous wide receivers, an incredible running back, a really good tight end. They could still win the Super Bowl just because remember the Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl, guys? Mm-hmm. There was no punts in the entire game.
Yeah.
That's going to be Detroit's blueprint to me in this playoffs, where there may not be any punts, but you know what? If we could score last in the half, right? That's going to be a big part. It's just game management, knowing that, okay, if I get the ball with 4 minutes to go, I got to score with like 20 seconds left if I'm Dan Campbell, not with like a minute and a half left. That to me is the whole thing with this, but I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Minnesota's every bit as good, if not better.
All right, Brad, let's end it with your best bets. What do you got for us today?
I'll give you a couple things for today, guys. Let me bring this up. I got for today, okay. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 11.5. He's averaging 9. He's gone under this 28 out of 34 times. Now, even with, you want to say, okay, well, what's his name's been out the entire year of Boncharo, but even with Wagner being out the last 10 games, he's still 8-2 to this under, averaging around 9. I don't think it should be 11.5. I think it's about 2 points too high. I took KCP under 11.5 points. Kyle Kuzma, he's had a good career, last year he played big minutes for the Wizards, and he averaged 6.4 rebounds in about 34 minutes a game. Now he's coming off the bench, and recently he's only been getting about 21 minutes a game. So this is a guy who averaged around a little over 6 rebounds a game last year, getting well over 30 minutes. Now he's getting closer to 20 minutes. I took under 5.5 rebounds. I think it should be closer to 4.5, maybe even 3.5. I think 5.5, too high. Kyle Kuzma under rebounds. I'll give you one in football. Jaylen Warren, to me, absolutely is shown to me he's the best running back on the Steelers. I think finally Tomlin's seeing it and using him more. He's gone over 38.5 yards, 8 of his last 10 games, and one of the 2 he didn't get there. He left injured. I say Jaylen Warren gets 39 plus.
All right, love it. That is the grind with Brad Feinberg. We appreciate it as always, and
appreciate you guys.
Good luck this weekend and all your plays.
Appreciate it. Have a good luck. Good luck, everyone. I'll see you guys Monday.
Thanks,
see you,
Brad. There he is, Brad Feinberg. I love the way he handicaps stuff and the way he looks at markets and breaks everything down.
Oh, yeah.
He's the brain.
It's all brain, no heart.
Yeah.
And that's how everybody should bet, but nobody bets that way. So the point he brings up with Detroit. So I'm going to use a very random number, and sometimes numbers can help formulate your story. So the reason I'm going to do this, 29, because there's 2 games that gave up 29. They've scored 29 or more points 9 times this year. They've given up 29 or more points 5 times this year. They did it against the Seahawks. They did it against the Vikings the last time these 2 teams played. They won 31-29. And then they did it in 3 of the last 4 weeks, 31 to the Packers, 48 to the Bills, 34 to the 49ers. Brad has merit. Like we've talked about, this team is getting decimated by injuries defensively. Like their game plan is
Minnesota's nasty.
Their game plan is going to be to beat teams 34-31, 34. They beat the Bears 34-17, but 40-34 against a bad
I'll
San
say it
Francisco
right now.
team.
I'll bet the over on every Detroit game this playoffs. Watch me.
I don't know how much Vegas view or how like Vegas views a playoff game in Detroit versus a playoff game in Minnesota. I would think there's a little bit more juice for Detroit for whatever reason that may be. But I think that if these two teams, if you said who do you think has a better chance right now of advancing deep into the playoffs, your heart's going to say, well, the Lions score in
No,
bunches.
I think it's Minnesota.
I think your brain might tell you it might be the Vikings.
Well, we'll talk to Fran a little bit about the NFL playoff picture, but this portion of the show is brought to you by our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. They're based right here in Fort Washington, and what they're doing with the Green Light app for kids and teens to help set up saving goals and financial literacy is just awesome. And I wish I had that when I was younger. So kudos to TrueMark. It's free for customers, and it's always good to have a credit union in your corner. All right, let's welcome him into the show. The man, the myth, the legend. We got a lot of college football to talk about with him, and I guess we'll talk some NFL and the Eagles and playoff picture and all that as well. Let's welcome in Mr. Fran Duffy.
They do not crave food nor drink for nourishment, for they exist solely on the glow of the all-22 monitors. They are the Leatherheads, and he is Franny Films.
VG really missed his calling in life, not being a show jingle writer.
He's John Vicenda reborn.
Fran, happy week 18 of the NFL season. That means it's about to become busy season for you with the drafts coming up and the football playoffs are here. Tyler and I, let's just start with the college football talk because Tyler and I were talking about it. Pretty good game yesterday. Two really good defenses going at it. Some not great offensive play. But we were talking a lot about the fake punt on the fly substitution that Marcus Freeman busts out with the kind of balance of the game on the line there inside his own 20. My gut reaction, Fran, after I got over the anxiety for Kirby Smart and the Georgia defense and special teams, it felt illegal. Like, that just didn't feel like that was a legal play. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, obviously it was a ballsy call in that situation. I think when you get into the postseason in college, I think you need to make those kinds of plays, right? I think you kind of need to go out on the edge a little bit. But I was fine with it from a legal standpoint, and I loved it. This look. We know that what this Georgia defense can be. At its best, it's one of the most physical defenses in football, and that showed up early on in that game yesterday. I think if you're Marcus Freeman, you say, all right, how are we able to milk this game down? How are we able to steal possessions? And so that to me was a great tool at their disposal. It helps when you also get the kick return touchdown to start the second half as well. It's just another way just to kind of get your offense a little bit of breathing room. But I think those two plays, special teams wise, helped win that game for Notre Dame.
Yeah, wow. So I'm sitting in a room with Andrew, a staunch Notre Dame fan, and Mr. Tyler Zulli, a Penn State alum, and Nut. This is going to be a pretty awesome game upcoming. Fran, two of the iconic college football uniforms, the theatrics of the game down in Miami, storied programs. It's pretty awesome. Who's going to win this one, Fran? What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a really good game. I haven't thought too much about the matchup yet, just because I wanted to kind of wrap my head around it as we got through the weekend. My initial gut goes to Penn State, but I think I can go either way. And the only reason I'm thinking Penn State is just because of how banged up Notre Dame is starting to get defensively. But I want to also wait and see what's the news on Abdul Carter,
Sure.
what is his status going to be going into next week as well, the star pass rusher for the Nittany Lions. My big thing, as I was thinking about it last night, after it's all right, Notre Dame's going to win this game. This region has never really been known, obviously, as a college football hotbed. If there's ever going to be a situation where people in southeastern PA are going to get juiced up for college football, especially at this part in the calendar, Notre Dame versus Penn State, I would think that would be it, right?
Yeah, the Northeast Philly Degenerate Bowl is about to be in full swing. But to talk about some of these guys, because, listen, there's no surprise. Good players are on good teams in college football. But if you look around the last weekend, and even with just the 4 teams left, but the 8 teams prior, if you look at a mock draft, there's 10, 12, 15 guys that reside on those 8 teams and even to the 4 teams that are left remaining. With the 4 teams left specifically, is there anybody, as you kind of get set for your mock draft era, is there anybody that jumps out to you with these 4 teams left that you have like circled in red pen as like your guy in the first round?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, one thing that we'll certainly be talking about in the coming months is that the top of this draft it leaves you wanting a little bit. Now, obviously, look, there's talent everywhere, right? And so it's not that this draft is bereft of talent, but I think when you're comparing the guys that are going to go in the top 10 of this draft and you compare them to the top 10s of previous drafts, whoever the top defensive tackle is, let's say it's Mason Graham from Michigan, you compare him to Jalen Carter. I'm taking Jalen Carter coming out of Georgia, right? And you could do that literally at every single position where I'm like, all right, like this guy's the top player in this class. Like, I love Abdul Carter. Jamie, I remember when early on in the season, as Abdul Carter was starting to really kind of come on in his first year as a pass rusher, I was like, yeah, this guy's going to go, top 20. But now we're talking about him in the top 5 just because of where this class is. And I'm like, man, like if you're comparing Abdul Carter to some of the other pass rushers we've seen go in the top 3, top 4 of a class, like he's a tier below those for me. And so when I look around, that's kind of how I feel about a lot of these guys. Will Campbell, the left tackle from LSU, like really good player. I really like Will Campbell, but if you're saying he's going to go in the top 5, like I like some of these other guys that in recent years. And so that's kind of how I feel about this whole group, Tyler. That said, if I were to pick, all right, like who from these final 4 teams am I really excited about from an NFL draft standpoint, looking forward, it's a good question. I think that Carter certainly, to me, like when I look at the pass rushers in this class, where he is in regards to his development, because remember, I mean, he was a linebacker up until last year, so this is his first year playing as a defensive end, as an edge rusher. I watched that first game against West Virginia, and there were some highs and there were some lows, but I said for what he showed in just game 1 as playing off the edge, there's a lot to be excited about. And a lot of his pressures were schemed up. He's moved around. They'll line him up still as an off-ball linebacker and blitz him, from depth. So it's not traditional. It's not like, oh yeah, this is exactly how you draw it up. But again, for a guy that's making that transition, I thought there was a lot to play on. So when I compare him to some of these other pass rushers, Tyler, to me, like Abdul Carter is the guy that gets me most excited. People ask me every single week on social media, oh, is there any way he's going to last the Eagles? No, that ship has sailed. He will be long gone by the time the Eagles pick.
So I think the one position you bring up is the pass rush position. I think if there was a position of depth, at least in the top end, because I think running back could be really, really good in the mid-rounds this year. But like if you talk about like the top end depth, I think edge rush, pass rush is the way to go. And you're losing a guy because of the injury, and then he decides he's coming back to LSU, is Harold Perkins. But like you think about the James Pierces, you think about the Abdul Carters like you brought up, and Williams from Georgia. If there was ever a position of, I guess, the strength amongst maybe a less than stellar first round, I think to me it's probably the edge rush position. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that's one that a lot of people are excited about. And to me, though, when I look at these players, you mentioned a couple guys there, right? So James Pierce has never been a starter. Like even in Tennessee this year, he was a rotational player. I got to look and see what the final number is just because they lost last week. So I still have to do the final stats on Pierce, but he was never a starter coming into this year. And even when I did him in the games earlier this fall, he was a guy that was coming in off the bench more often than not. I know injury played a part in that, but this is a guy who's an undersized, like speed rusher only, right? And so he's almost like a designated pass rusher. We talked about that with that Penn State rusher last year, where it's like, oh, like, is he going to be a 3-down guy? Is this what is he going to look like when you get him into the NFL? That's not a guy that, there were some that were like, oh, this guy could be a top 5 pick. You can't take a player that is that one-dimensional that high in the draft. So I do think he falls into the back half of round 1. Now it's a matter of, all right, which teams are going to feel okay with that. If you're the Eagles and you're looking at James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, it's kind of similar to where you're at with Bryce Huff, where it's like, all right, like, is he going to be that run setting, that run defense factor that Vic Fangio wants? I just don't know if James Pierce has that. I think when you look at Mykel Williams, a lot of people were really excited about the step that he could take this year. He was another guy that got banged up as the injury or as the season progressed, and he was kind of in and out of the lineup. I think he's still even kind of raw as a player and a little bit underdeveloped. He's not great against the run. What is he going to do as a rusher? And so, I think when you look at a lot of these guys off the edge, the one guy that I would say, like, I feel really good good about where he's at right now and feel like this is the guy that's going to go in round one. Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, he led the Big Ten in sacks a year ago at Purdue, transferred down to the SEC, and like the sack production didn't follow him, but the level of play, he's a Jared Verse type. He went in the middle of round one last year out of Florida State, and I think Scorton has that same kind of, I want to melt your face every single play. Like that's the kind of way that he likes to play. And so I would say Nick Scorton is a player I think when you get into the middle part of round one that teams will start to feel good about as well.
Well, Fran, it's week 18 in the NFL. Some meaningless football being played this weekend for a lot of teams, a lot of incentives out there for some other players. We're going to be doing the show Sunday together. I talked about some guys earlier in the show that, depth-wise, you have to create a little bit of excitement in these meaningless games, something to pay attention to and to watch. Tyler Steen is a guy. Ajomo is a guy. Isaiah Rodgers, I mentioned, and even Trot Jr. are kind of four guys I'm going to be circling this weekend who are going to have a chance at higher percentage of snaps and plays. What are you going to be looking for this weekend?
Yeah, I think a couple of those names that you brought up, Jamie, certainly are guys to watch, and for reasons moving forward, not just for their development, but also could help dictate what the Eagles' plans are at those positions moving forward, right? Because Milton Williams is on an expiring contract. He's going to be a free agent. If Moro Ojomo shows out, because honestly, he's playing his best football right now. What he's done these last 2-3 weeks on film, I think is the best that 97 Moro Ojomo has looked so far in Eagles uniform. So if you feel, you know what, the arrow is still kind of pointing up with him, and we feel like he can give us a fuller complement of snaps next year as our second or third defensive tackle, you let Milton Williams walk, and then you're able to solidify, we're going to keep Zach Bond, maybe you keep Josh Sweat, maybe you keep Mekhi Becton, however you want that to be determined, now that you feel a little bit better with that. Keely Ringo is another player that you didn't mention that I'm excited to see here with a full game's worth of action, especially when you've got Malik Neighbors lined up. He'll get some reps against Neighbors. I think it's a good test for Keely Ringo. Just kind of get a sense of where he's at with his development. Obviously, he's been the fourth corner for the majority of this year. Isaiah Rodgers ahead of him on the depth chart, but still one of the youngest players on this team. You look at his physical tools. That secondary has been so well coached all season. So how much coaching has Keely Ringo taken over the last 12 months? I'm excited to see what he looks like here in week 18.
Is Christian Parker as good as gone?
I don't know if he's as good as gone, but he's going to get looks as a defensive coordinator. I would say the same thing about Bobby King as well. I would imagine that he's the inside linebackers coach. I would say both of those coaches are going to be on the defensive coordinator shortlist in terms of interviews moving forward. And then it's a matter of, all right, how many of those jobs do those guys get? But I think when you look at those two, I would think they're going to be on the short list for teams looking to fill that opening.
Hiring good young coaches is it kind of sucks, because you get the right guy, and obviously it's great for them that they earn these opportunities, but it's like, we got to start over again. Damn it.
Yeah, and so then it'll be up to Vic Fangio to try and backfill those spots. And look, at the end of the day, you want to have good coaches on your staff. You hope that you have younger coaches on your staff that you can kind of backfill. And if not, Vic Fangio's been around the league long enough that you make a couple calls here and there, and all of a sudden you see who else shakes loose, and you try and backfill that way. But no, that is certainly the double-edged sword of having one of the better coaching staffs in football.
So a couple of divisions still up for grabs. The NFC North, of course, is the big one, but the NFC South as well as the AFC North. Any of these three games, do you have like a good gut feel for any of these three games that you would say this team is definitively winning this division between the South and the two North divisions?
Yeah, to me, look, a lot of the brain power, I think, is going towards that Minnesota-Detroit game. Like, I'm just excited to get back from the post-game show Sunday, hopefully get home in time for the start of this one and just take this whole game in on Sunday night between the Lions and the Vikings. And, I just couldn't imagine. You go 14-2, and you're good into this final game. You might be the 5 seed and never even host a playoff game. That means to have such a great year and to fall short in that way is going to be such a kick in the gut for whoever loses this game. But at the end of the day, I mean, I know that, the brain was just talking about it with you guys a few minutes back. I think when you look at the way that Minnesota is playing right now, the heater they are on offensively, Detroit has really struggled to be able to get stops with that attrition on that side of the football. And so when I look at it, I would think that Minnesota has the edge. But if this ends up being a 41-38 game, I don't think anyone would be surprised either. And then it's just a matter of who has the ball last.
Fran, am I crazy for thinking if I'm the Eagles, I'd rather face the Lions than the Vikings?
I don't think you're crazy.
Okay,
Especially
good
mainly
start,
because of that defense, right? I think
Brian
that's
Flores
that's the
scares
I
me,
think
thing.
you're
is that when
crazy,
you
but for
look
different
at,
reasons.
Yeah. I think when you look at Detroit's defense right now and the injuries that they've had, yeah, I don't think that that's crazy. I think when you look at Minnesota, my big thing when you look at the matchup against the Vikings would be, okay, that defense going up against Jalen Hurts in this past game, that, Brian Flores is a defensive coordinator that can throw some wacky stuff at you from a schematic standpoint, from a blitz standpoint. And so when you think of the things that, Todd Bowles has done to Jalen Hurts in recent years,
Yeah.
I would put Brian Flores in that bucket of coaches that can do similar types of things. Now, Hurts did a great job in that week 2 game at Lincoln Financial Field last season in 2023, and kind of, weathering the storm early on. Minnesota was able to have some success, but those final 2 quarters, Jalen, the passing game really took fire. You had that big play, that deep post touchdown to Devontae Smith in the second half. I think that when you have some time to kind of build into that, and you hope that they're able to find that success. But that would scare me just because you've got 2 great coaches in that Minnesota staff with O'Connell and Flores.
So speaking of Flores, one of the reports that came out last night was that Flores may be the head coaching candidate favorite for the Bears, or up there on their want list. If you got Caleb Williams, I love Brian Flores. I've been talked to you about him all year. Don't you kind of have to go offensive-minded coach a little bit when you have that investment in Caleb?
Yeah, you would think so. Especially you want to be able to, because all right, what's best case scenario if you're the Chicago Bears? You hire a really good coach. You have this offense that takes off in year 1, and if it's a good offense, that offensive coordinator might get plucked, right? And so now all of a sudden Caleb Williams is on his 3rd offensive coordinator, really his 4th offensive coordinator in 3 seasons. And so I think ideally you'd probably want an offensive coach. But that said, I mean, you're working with the talent pool at your disposal, and if Brian Flores is here and it's from an interview standpoint and the other coaches from an offensive standpoint are here, you got to go with Brian Flores. And so I think that at the end of the day, Chicago's going to make the hire that they feel best about after, having the host of candidates in their room. If that's Ben Johnson, if Ben Johnson and Brian Flores are on even ground, then maybe that's where you kind of lean towards Ben Johnson. But that's why they go through the interview process, just to make sure that they've got all their P's and Q's in order. I do think it's interesting. I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah over on his podcast, and he made a really good point. I hadn't thought about it. Obviously, look, we know that the disparity between the quarterbacks in the AFC versus the NFC, and you look at the talent and the pedigree over in that conference at that position. But then when you look at the coaches that they're all paired with, you look at Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and you go down the list, Lamar Jackson, the majority of those quarterbacks who are like the best in the league, they're all paired with defensive coaches for the most part. Like, obviously you have Andy, but outside of that, it's a lot of defensive coaches over on that side. Whereas the offensive coaches over on the NFC, they've got like the quarterbacks that are on their 2nd and 3rd team, or maybe they weren't 1st round picks, right? It's kind of an interesting dichotomy there. But I do think that, look, at the end of the day, you want the best coach, and so whoever that is for Chicago, that you want to make sure that that's the guy that you bring into the building.
So my kind of like antenna perked up a little bit when you brought up the offensive coordinator getting a job. If like you're thinking about pairing him with a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, a little bit. So I'm sorry to throw this kind of question out of left field, but the name that immediately popped in my head: does Cliff Kingsbury get another head coaching job at some point? Because I don't like him as a head coach, but he's done a really nice job in Washington as their OC. Like, is that the type of guy who might get a second chance as a head coach at some point?
It seems like he's going to get the interviews for it. Now, you can go get into the conversations about whether that's warranted or not. If that's best for him. Some coaches are just really good at being coordinators and not being the head coach. And so I think if you're bringing Cliff Kingsbury in, the big questions you're asking, all right, like, what would you do different? Where did you fail in Arizona? How would you correct some of the issues that you had, down the stretch? How would some of the issues that plagued that team? So I think when you look at it, you want to make sure you feel good about those answers. But look, he's done one of the best jobs of any offensive coordinator in football here this year. You give a lot of credit to him. Certainly, Jaden Daniels has played out of his mind. But look, Kingsbury's the guy that's calling the shots there on that offense. So I do think that the interviews will be warranted. But then it's about comparing, who else is at your disposal there when it comes to making that head coach hire.
Fran, last one for you. Random college football question on the way out. Did Jackson Dart make himself some money last night?
I don't know if he made money. I think that he's played enough games over these last couple of years in that offense where you kind of feel good about, the evaluation there. But that said, to go out and end your career on that note is certainly the way to go out, right? I think that that was certainly big for him from that standpoint. I just think that when you look at his whole body of work, the numbers are certainly there, but this is a guy that still has some work to do from a passing standpoint, from a mental standpoint, at playing the position. And so, look, I did a lot of work on Jackson Dart over the summer, going back to last year. I did some work early on in the season, so I feel pretty good about the evaluation. I think he's probably more of like a day 3 type of a player right now, but I do think that as he continues to put up these monstrous numbers, and with by the way, like a bunch of his receivers getting hurt along the way, some of those pieces kind of falling by the wayside, I think that's certainly impressive.
So in your evaluations, where does the coolness factor go in with the arm sleeve and the cool black eye black? Does that go into your process much?
Yeah, it's a tiebreaker. Okay. I put it up there with when you look at arm strength and accuracy and mobility, maybe right below those. We'll get into the arm sleeves.
All right, good. Well, it's about to be your season, Fran, and I can't encourage people enough to become a diehard here at allphly.com. Your work alone is going to be worth it. I'm really looking forward to having you on board for draft season, and Fran Duffy season is starting real soon. Not that it wasn't already, but even more so now coming up.
Right around the corner. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Fran. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. There he is, the great Fran Duffy. Give him a follow on Twitter. And Tyler, I don't need to tell you, I don't need to tell Andrew, but if you're just viewing the show for the first time out here, he alone is worth becoming a diehard.
Well, I said this yesterday, and I'll say this again, and I would say this to his face. I think there are 2 people that I trust more than anybody when it comes to draft prospect evaluation.
Yeah. And
it's Fran Duffy locally and Jordan Reed nationally, and I love both of those guys. I would subscribe to their draft conversation stuff if they did like franduffy.net.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if it was some like knockoff website, I would subscribe. I think
I've
they're
been
both
harassing Fran every Saturday during the season. Like I'm watching a game. I'm like, oh my God, did you see that throw by Cam Ward? And he's like, yeah.
So I got to ask you, I got to ask you a question. You know those games that ESPN, so like, when ESPN does the Capital Bowl Mania sweepstakes, how many people do you think play in those?
Oh God.
Do you think it's got to be thousands. Do you think it gets to 1 million?
The ESPN.com?
Yeah. So you pick the games like straight up and what? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to give myself a little credit
Where
here.
You at?
730th.
Wow.
In the world.
Wow.
Yeah,
and that's just straight up winners?
Straight up winners. 730th in the world.
What was your big upset that set you apart from the pack? Do you recall?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Because if that's against the spread, that's wildly impressive.
No, it's not against the spread.
That would be nuts.
I'm trying to find what the best. So LSU was a slight dog, but that doesn't really count. I'm trying to find what the biggest upset would be. Iowa State was a slight dog. It's been a lot of favorites. It's been a lot of favorites. UConn was a slight dog. They won. It's been a lot of favorites. I took Vandy to win. They won.
I wish college football could go on longer.
I would love to. I guess Toledo. Toledo was probably my big one. Like I looked at that and went, dude, Pitt hasn't won a game in almost 3 months. They started 7-0. They finished the season 7-6. Yeah. Pitt stinks. And Pat Narduzzi's such a dork.
You don't have any Pitt hatred from your time at Penn State,
I don't. The funny thing is I don't hate Pitt. I hate Pat Narduzzi.
Okay.
It's just him. I have because it should be a rivalry, Penn State and Pitt. Yeah, it's really not anymore. Not. It was in the 80s.
Pitt and West Virginia.
Yeah, it's Pitt and West Virginia now. It should be a rivalry, Pitt and Penn State, because of the proximity. It's not. I just Pat Narduzzi's such a loser.
We're going to be joined by Bo Wulf here momentarily at 10:30 to talk about Eagles-Giants slop fest this weekend. But the NFL picture around the league, I'm going to do something with Bo called Play or Nay, because there's a lot of guys with huge contract incentives this week.
I think the biggest ones, I know we'll talk about it. The biggest one's got to be Baker Mayfield, right?
Actually, Mike Evans and Geno Smith have a ton on the line. And it's interesting to see where these teams are. Do you think I'm crazy for saying I'd rather face the Lions than the Vikings?
No.
If Aiden Hutchinson is healthy and the Lions defense is healthy, it's a different story. At
full tilt for both teams, I would not want to play the Lions, especially in Detroit. Wouldn't want to play the Lions, but the Vikings are playing well.
Eagles in a dome though might put up It's TJ Mont just tweeted me. He's like, dude, I want to go to Ford Field. He's like, the Eagles are putting up 45 in that stadium.
Well, they might, but the Lions might put up 40 as well. So
but the Eagles defense is better.
Do you want to get in a shootout? Is the question.
Versus Dollhands, Jared Goff? Yeah, bring it on.
Okay.
And I know
Listen, you're gonna play good teams.
Yeah, you have to beat good teams.
Like you're gonna beat good teams. Like even in the wild card round, you're playing a Green Bay or you're playing a Washington. They're good football teams. Like you're gonna have to beat 3 good football teams to get to the Super Bowl, and then a good one to win the Super Bowl. Like you don't have the benefit of a bye.
No,
there's
the
not
NFC's loaded this year.
There's not a 9-7 wild card team that like snuck in on the last day where you go, okay, well, if the Seahawks got into the playoffs, I'd be like, dude, the Eagles will roll the Seahawks.
Yeah.
There's no question.
All
but
right.
you're playing Green Bay, you're playing Washington, then you're gonna go play probably like a Tampa Bay or a Detroit on, at home. Like you're playing good teams throughout the playoffs.
I don't want to do a Bo Wulf to Zach Berman and make Zach wait through a read here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
That's my fault.
No, it's not. So I want to not Bo Wulf. Is that fair? So let's take a break here, tell you about our friends, and then we'll welcome them in. And that's our friends over at Golden Nugget Jewelers. When you're hunting down a ring, whether you be the Eagles or maybe the Penn State Nittany Lions, you don't have to play in a championship game to get a good ring. You can just go to the corner of 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly and visit Golden Nugget Jewelers. It's the premier place to get the engagement ring of your partner's dreams. And it's family owned and operated since 1987. And they have a wide assortment of rings and wedding bands to fit anyone's style. And you can receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring you get there. And it's not just wedding jewelry. You can find watches, diamond necklaces, diamond bracelets, earrings, and plenty more. Valentine's Day isn't far away. It's still kind of the holiday season, or maybe you just want to treat that special someone in your life to something great over at Golden Nugget Jewelers. And you deserve an expert and the best price. And Golden Nugget Jewelers has both, where Philly gets engaged. Head over to goldennuggetjewelers.com to learn more.
So my family, one of the things that my family does, like as a collective, they don't like giving gift cards for whatever reason. I think it's a great idea. You know why? Because I can get exactly what I want.
Gift cards always hit.
And gift cards are great. You know what a gift card is awesome too? That's with our friends over at Parks Casino in Ben Salem, right off the Street Road exit of I-95, just about 25 or 30 minutes away from Philly, depending on traffic, a couple hours from New York. But you don't have to worry about getting into city traffic. If you're in the burbs, you just go right over to Ben Salem and our friends over at Parks Casino, because you can purchase gift cards for concerts and comedy at the Excite Center. You can get ones for the Liberty Bell Beer Garden, the Parks Grill Steakhouse, and more, all at Parks Casino, which of course is my casino of choice. This is how you win. It is Pennsylvania's #1 casino, right, as I said, in the Philly suburbs in Ben Salem. And tickets are on sale for some of the great headliners. Some of the ones that are just announced include May 16th. How about Larry the Cable Guy?
Get her done.
And of course, his old running partner, Ron White, on March 20th.
You can't fix stupid.
And then, of course, how about SNL's Colin, is it Jost or is it Yost?
I say Jost.
Jost. Colin Jost returns for 2 nights at Parks Casino, March 14th and March 15th.
Me and last names.
Fair.
So don't
but
listen
he is
to me.
he's now doing.
I think it is Jost.
Okay. So he is now doing.
If I was him, I would just go by Mr. Johansson.
Yeah.
He's doing
Colin Johansson. I mean,
okay.
Jost Hansen.
There you go. All right, let's get back to some of the acts. Country artist Cole Swindell on February 7th.
Tails Carolina, heads California.
Of course, the reggae acts of Shaggy on January 18th in just a couple of 2 weeks or so.
Girl, you're my angel. You're my darling angel.
Jamie, I know you care about this one. January 24th, actor Richard Kind from, I know, one of your favorite shows, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Finest, yeah.
Country star Lee Brice on March 22nd.
There's a rumor going around about me and you.
And a ton more, including my one of my favorite acts in Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. Enjoy dinner and drinks before the show at Liberty Bell Gastro Pub, the Parks Grill Steakhouse, or at one of my favorite places, not just locally, but one of my favorite places just in the world to eat is the Bamboo Noodle House. I love that place. You been there, Andrew?
Love the
Delicious.
Noodle House.
And you can do it all at Parks Casino in Ben Salem. ParksCasino.com to buy tickets for all of your shows. This is how you win. You must be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, this portion of the show is brought to you by your neighborhood-friendly Rite Aid Pharmacy. Stop in there whether you need some household products, some snacks for the road, or if you just want to get your prescriptions under control with the Rite Aid app. You can do all that at your neighborhood Rite Aid. All right, let's welcome him into the show. And Tyler just kind of inceptioned my brain there. Mr. Bo Wulf joins us now. Bo, what is... Oh, at the NovaCare complex. Hello.
Taking the Zach spot. You almost... Yeah, I know you zacked me with the ad read, so I figured I got to just teleport here.
Have you found a secret window? Is there like a hidden window somewhere that you've never seen before?
I see the window over here. There's a picture of Zach painted on it. It says, "Look at me." Yeah, it's all going. I got to say, Andrew going angel for Shaggy caught me, but I mean, you got to go.
It wasn't me,
Mr. Boombastic. I mean, come on.
That'll be next time.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. I've been thinking about noodles.
Shaggy.
Yeah, Shaggy obviously leads to noodle. But what's your favorite noodle?
Oh man,
I know.
What a tough question.
Did you?
What's my favorite noodle?
Yeah.
Come to PHL.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, besides man. Specifically, like Italian pasta or any kind of noodle.
Any kind of noodle.
Because what's coming to mind is like a good like ramen egg noodle to me.
Yeah.
As good as it gets. I love the pho noodle. And then if we're going into Italian pasta, I think my favorite specifically noodle. I mean, I love a rigatoni, but it's rigatoni. You know what you're getting, and then I know people love a bucatini, but I couldn't have. I don't want bucatini every single meal. You know, it's nice and toothsome, but I think like a linguine is a great go-to.
See, I think linguine and spaghettis are overrated. Two of my favorites that come to mind are the orecchiette. Because you get the little...
but orecchiette, it's like you got. I mean, it's tough to get.
Yeah, but you got the little bowl in there, so when the sauce gets in there, you get a perfect bite.
Yeah, but you gotta spoon that bad boy. Like, but the kids can't. I can't be giving the kids orecchiette, right? It's gonna be a mess.
More of an adult pasta. And I'm a big farfalle fan.
Love a farfalle. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, the good noodle talk here. I think the most underrated noodle, which is good in a beef stroganoff, insert your own cow jokes here. I
don't think there's supposed to be a CK in that pronunciation, but go
ahead. Well, there's a joke there that I was leading into. The egg noodle, critically underrated.
Yeah, we do it like one of our favorite family meals is pork chops and egg noodles with some applesauce. You get it all mixed together. Good
that.
Move.
All right, good noodle talk. All right, let's talk some football.
Is there a football segue from that? Like,
no, I was just thinking about noodles.
All right, Bo,
yeah, Kenny Pickett has a noodle arm.
Catch him at 2:00 this afternoon. Thanks for joining us, Bo.
Bo, what do you make of Jalen Hurts not being cleared from concussion protocol yet? Is this just a formality of him not playing this weekend? It doesn't matter, or is there something worse at hand?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard. We could have said Kenny Pickett's arm was our favorite noodle, but I know that would have been up your alley, Jamie. On the Jalen Hurts thing, listen, I think I'm probably not worried about it because the rules of the concussion protocol are you have to practice and then recover from practice in order to get through the protocol. And if it was the case that they're just resting Jalen Hurts this week, I guess he wouldn't go through the protocol. But it's weird that he wasn't out there at practice. There's no doubt about that. I think it is worth keeping an eye on, no doubt about it. I don't think he would have played this week anyway, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, I think you'd like to see him just get cleared just to be able to breathe about it.
So, Bo, Jamie asked Fran this question, so I'll ask you. In a Week 18 game that doesn't really mean a ton for the Eagles, like, you're kind of fabricating excitement and storylines a little bit, but is there anybody in your estimation that may not get as much playing time throughout the season that you're looking forward to?
Preface this without Tanner McKee, because we know who Bo's answer is.
Yeah, no quarterback play. Anybody aside from the quarterback play that may get some extra snap counts this week that you're excited to see?
Yeah, I think there are two avenues to think about this, right? There is guys who you want to have a little bit of confidence in if, in fact, they get called on in the playoffs in an emergency situation. And then there are just like developmental guys who you want to see get these reps with next year in mind. I think on the first thing, I don't know if Tyler Steen is going to play in this game because the Eagles have 5 other offensive linemen who are backups who they could play, but my guess is that Steen will maybe play a half of this game and then maybe Darian Kennard gets worked in or something. Steen has gotten work this season, so it's not a crazy thing, but he would be the first offensive lineman in at most of the positions if a guy on the interior gets injured. So I think it's an interesting game for him. The guys on the outside, like if AJ Brown or Devontae Smith goes down, it's not like all of a sudden Jalen Hurts is going to funnel the offense through Johnny Wilson or whatever. So I think that's a little bit more of a down the line progression thing. On the defensive line, I think we sort of know what to expect from the interior guys on the edge. Like I want to see Bryce Huff, right? Can Bryce Huff's going to have to play a lot in this game? Can he show enough that you feel good about him taking 15 snaps or so in the playoffs and providing some third down edge rush? Vic Fangio said this week that Bryce Huff was rusty in that first game, which is honest. And he also came out of the game with a wrist injury 2 plays in and then came back. So I think he is the one who is probably most important of the guys who are going to play. And you're thinking about what can they do potentially in the playoffs. And then the other one who comes to mind for me is Keely Ringo. Because Isaiah Rodgers is going to be the first guy up in the playoffs, but there's also a situation where if you get really injured, Keely Ringo will have to play on the outside against teams that have very good wide receivers. So I think these reps will be interesting for him. And then the guys, just sort of long-term, I mean, Trotter Jr. is very interesting to me. And it's also that's also one that could potentially be with the playoffs in mind because him and Oren Burks are sort of jockeying for position as to who the third linebacker is behind Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. Sidney Brown is very interesting to me because it's curious that as a second-year, third-round pick, this guy who is super athletically gifted has been leapfrogged by both Tristan McCollum and Avonte Maddox as the number 3 safety. So that's an interesting one. I'd like to see what he can do with the full game's worth of defensive playing time. And then, in terms of development, like the backup offensive lineman, Trevor Keegan's going to be active for the very first time, the 5th-round pick. We'll see what he can do. Maybe Darian Kennard, who they kept on the roster but hasn't played. I'm curious to see what he can do. But other than that, I think Fran is probably right. It's like a preseason game in that you talk yourself into being excited about it for the first quarter, and then you sort of start being like, okay, let's fast forward this bad boy to the end.
Dylan McMahon's got to be available from this game, right?
Don't get me started, Tyler. I'm going to burn this place down.
Fran, now I want to give you some superpowers here, and I'm going to deem you head coach of all of these teams. I want to play a little game with you. Play or nay? A lot of players have some bonus incentives this weekend around the league. Some of these teams, it's meaningless football, but individually, guys have some big money on the line here, and I want to know if you would play them or not play them if you were their head coach. Let's just work under the premise that all of these players have come to you and said, Coach, I want my bonus. I want to go for this amount of money. And you have to make the decision, yay or nay. First up, Kyler Murray needs 50 yards and 1 rushing touchdown for $750K. Are you letting him play?
50 yards rushing or passing?
Rushing, I believe.
That one I probably am playing him. I think there's a difference between if you have the playoffs coming versus if you're just playing out the string. And so Kyler Murray, I think I would play. All
right, Kyle Van Noy. He is 1 sack away from $250K. Are you letting him play?
I think they have to play in that. He's on the Ravens, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they have to play to win that game in order to lock up the seed there. So I think he does play.
Von Miller. He is 1 sack away from $1.5 million bonus. Are you letting him play?
Now they have nothing to play for.
Yes.
And the other consideration here is do you just pay instead of play, as you talk to the general manager? But that is so much money that you're not just going to give him a handout, $1.5 million, and he's going to want that. So I think he probably does play.
That's one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah. That is an interesting one.
Cortland Sutton 82 yards away from a $2 million kicker.
Well, they need to win in order to get into the playoffs, so he does have to play.
Okay. J.K. Dobbins, 58 yards away from 150K.
This is a good one because I think this is one. So the Chargers are going to know on Sunday whether they have anything to play for based on the result of the Ravens-Steelers games. And if they have nothing to play for, I think this is one where you just pay him.
Okay. Yeah, that's a small
but you give it you pay out the $150 incentive, K incentive, because it's also like he's earned that over the course of, he's been an important player for them.
Sure. Geno Smith has some of the wildest incentives this weekend. He can make $2 million from either 185 passing yards. He has another $2 million kicker if he completes the season with over a 69.7% completion percentage. And
so specific.
Yes, very specific. And if he gets one more win, he can also get a $2 million incentive. What are you doing with Geno Smith?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Mike McDonald, he's playing. If you're John Schneider, you're like, please sit him.
And then the final one, I think this might be the toughest one. Mike Evans can get $3 million with 5 catches and 85 yards.
They have to win to get in also. So he's got to play.
All right.
That's a spicy one, yeah.
Yeah, there's some good bonus. And then, Tyler, you said there's another one.
Yeah, so Baker Mayfield stands, and he's obviously going to play because they need to win the division, but he stands to make up to $2.5 million, $500K for each. Finishing top 5 in passer rating, he's 4th. Top 10 in completion percentage, he's 2nd. Top 10 in yards per attempt, he's 7th. 10th in touchdown passes, he's 2nd. And 10th in passing yards, he's 4th. So the likelihood is he's going to get at least 3 of those 5 and make an extra $1.5 million, but he has a chance to make up to $2.5 million in his incentives.
That's one where, like, if they didn't have something to play for, he could argue to not play so that he can lock in those incentives and not fall below them, right?
Right.
Bo, so last night Jeremy Fowler puts out that the rumor mill around some Eagles circles is that if there's a 1-game failure for the Eagles in the playoffs, Nick Sirianni could find himself on the hot seat. You buying or selling that rumor?
I'm buying it in that it doesn't strike me as like
far-fetched,
particularly newsworthy, because that's what we all assume, right? He's not saying he will be fired. He's saying it could be a conversation. And yeah, like, of course that is the case. This has been the story of the Eagles season to some degree. And we were talking about this yesterday on the Eagles show with Fran and Zach. Like, this has been an awesome Eagles season. They've been one of the best teams in football. You get like the Saquon Barkley experience has been unbelievable. Getting to watch this defense surprisingly turn into one of the best, if not the best in football, has been awesome. But the truth is, like, the story of this Eagles season is just beginning. Like, we are only going to remember what happens with this team in the playoffs. So those are the stakes of the season. Those were the stakes coming in. And so if they fall flat on their face, surprisingly, in the wild card round, yeah, like I do think that the Eagles are going to have a conversation. Obviously, they had a conversation last year when they made the playoffs. Nick Sirianni's record is awesome. It is the best win-loss record of any active head coach, all of that stuff. But we know that in the building, that is not necessarily all that they care about. Some of the sideline histrionics are things that are going to matter to Jeffrey Lurie. I'm not saying that Nick Sirianni deserves to be under fire. He has been awesome, but we know that he was under fire last year. And if they collapse again, I mean, it would obviously not be the same level of collapse. And if they lose, a last-second field goal to the Packers and they played well, like I think he is almost definitely going to be back next year. But his contract is up. Or he's going into the final year of his contract. Zach Berman talked about this week. It is not usually Jeffrey Lurie's MO to let a coach be on, the final year of his contract. And so you're thinking either extension or move on. Now, there also haven't been many analogous situations with the Eagles. I don't think it's impossible that he would be going into a lame duck final season. But, they love what they did on defense with Vic Fangio. They're going to want to make sure that he sticks around. I would obviously be surprised at this point if it leads to Nick Sirianni's not the head coach of the Eagles. I think he has done everything that you could ask him to do this season. But the season that we've seen so far doesn't really matter compared to what happens over the next month.
Yeah, I think if the Commanders come in here and beat you in a home playoff game, I think he's gone. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I think it depends on how it happens.
Sure.
There are lots of different variables, but I don't think that he is out of the woods yet. I think that's right.
Which is crazy. It sounds ridiculous on its surface.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is. But this
13-3.
When Doug Peterson can get fired a year after doing something that no coach has done before, of course there's context to why, but like anything's possible. Anything's on the table.
Yeah, I think it's wild that is the case, but yeah. I do think that it's not over yet.
All right, Bo. Well, thanks for joining us. It was a great noodle discussion. Looking forward to you, Zach, today at 2:00. Is it Professor Friday?
It's Professor Friday. We got Zach coming on. Now I'm trying to think of more noodles.
Good.
That we disrespected. As a kid, you like the angel hair, but I think you grow out of the angel hair as an adult.
Too thin. Doesn't hold on to the sauce well enough.
Too thin. Yeah. I like a fettuccine every now and then.
Wide ribbon pasta, which is fettuccine.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah. Tagliatelle. That's always fun. Now, how do you feel about like a stuffed pasta? How do you feeling? Pecnes migrate, tortellini, ravioli, and like a stuffed shell.
I'll go stuffed shell over ravioli. Raviolis, I feel like, I don't know. They're okay. I don't want to like poo-poo a ravioli, but not my favorite.
Yeah, I think the two in between. Tortellini. I could eat a whole thing of tortellini. I could put away tortellini like nobody's business.
If you're ever looking for a good date night with the missus, Bo, I did this with my wife and sister and brother-in-law last winter. Homemade pasta class by Bruno in town. This woman does a awesome BYO pasta making class. Highly enjoyable date night. So throw that in the back pocket.
We don't talk about Bruno.
I'm actually putting together an Encanto Lego set that Santa left us right now. And let me tell you
nice.
this.
We got one of those last Christmas.
Did you? I have a whole new respect for the Lego people. My 8 pans and small, intricate Lego putting together is not a good combination.
It's tough.
It is difficult.
It is. And then when you got to like pull them apart
and
they're really stuck together, that's
like,
brutal.
it's a room that like opens up and anytime the outer walls collapse.
Yes. I think that's the one we did last year.
Yeah, it's tough. So new respect for noodles and new respect for Lego adults.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you later. There he is, Bo Wulf, Fran Duffy from the PHLY Eagles show at 2:00 today.
I got to ask a question.
Yeah.
The whole movie concept is that they have this estranged family member who they don't talk about.
Bruno got done dirty.
First of all, he got done real dirty.
Yeah.
Second of all, this dude's been living in their walls for like a decade and a half, and no one noticed it.
What's the term? There's a term for this when in Arrested Development, Jeffrey Tambor's living in the attic and they don't know it.
Yeah.
Squatters?
It's not
He's squatting in the walls.
So my one buddy's wife is convinced they have somebody living in their house.
Oh, what is that called?
It's a term.
So there is a term, but
where
people
somebody's living in your house,
and you don't know, and
but they don't bother you, and they only like. So my house, it would be impossible because the attic entrance is like in my kids' room. So I would imagine like they would wake up and know. But my one buddy's wife is convinced that they have somebody living in their house without their knowledge.
There is a movie that's based on that where they're a young couple. They don't have any money. And they just live in these people's house, and like live in the attic. They only come out when they're not there.
Yeah.
They go in, they eat their food, they do all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And then when they come back, they just go back into their little hidey hole.
And they wait.
And no one knows that they're there.
Yeah.
That is a real thing that people do.
Yeah. Isn't that creepy as hell?
Frogging is what it's called.
Frogging? Yeah, the movie is called.
It's called frogging. It's when someone secretly lives in another person's home without their knowledge. The name comes from the idea of leapfrog, with the intruder hopping from place to place like a frog. Whether that be someone's basement, attic, crawl space, etc.
That is so terrifying.
Creepy, dude. It's like my one buddy's wife's like biggest fear, and
I'm gonna start
like,
using.
I swear we have somebody living in our attic.
I'm gonna start
Frogger.
using this as the reason as to why I live in a small apartment because there's nowhere for anybody to go. You can't hide in my place.
Yeah, so Bruno was, I guess, essentially a Frogger in his own house.
In his own house.
Poor guy.
Yeah, guy got done dirty.
Yeah, he did.
Imagine like stumbling across the Frogger. Like you're just like putting away towels and then you open up the closet and it's
My God. How long have you been living here?
What year is it? 2025? 12 years.
Yeah, I've been here.
That's my
12
shirt.
years.
That's my shirt.
It'd be like the scene in Christmas Vacation where he pulls out the present from like 1972 and blows the dust off of it. It's like, where'd this come from? Oh, I just took it. It's been up here.
Frogger. Oh, nice. Mickey Durkin says, hello, Mickey. Says, my shirt is throwing off 1994 Eddie Vedder vibes. Love it. Oh, you got an Eddie Vedder in the bag?
Rest his head on a pillow made of concrete.
Better man.
All right, that will take us to our back.
That's the only time I will ever sing on this show.
Yeah,
again.
you're a known Pearl Jam hater, right?
No, I like Pearl Jam.
Oh, you like Pearl Jam?
I'm just not a huge Eddie Vedder guy. I like Pearl Jam's music. I'm just not a big Eddie Vedder guy.
Fair enough.
There's a lot of bands that do that for me where I'm like, I just don't like their vocalist.
Billy Corgan, his voice makes me want to jump out a window.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to say something that people don't like.
Ooh, hot take. Music hot take?
Yeah, so there are four musical pieces to this band. There's a lead singer, there's a bass player, there's a guitar player, there's a drummer. The drummer is widely considered one of the greatest of all time. The guitar player is very, very good. The bassist is very, very good at his job. He also sings, and it ruins the whole thing for me. I don't like Rush because I don't like Geddy Lee's voice.
Huh.
Neil Peart's the greatest drummer in the history of
music. Who is a huge Rush fan?
Paul Rudd.
Well, yes. But the guy that sits in this chair.
Really?
Normally, during these hours.
Anthony's a big Rush fan.
Anthony's a big
Rush
fan? Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there you go. Don't say that around Anthony.
Yeah,
you might
I
lamp
think
you, cuz.
3/4 of Rush, including Geddy Lee playing the bass, are so good.
Every time I hear Rush, I think of Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah, the only thing
that's Styx. I'm sorry. That's Styx.
Yeah, the only thing with Rush I ever think of is I Love You, Man.
Slapping the boss. Are they Canadian?
Rush is Canadian, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
All right, all this talk of throwback, and we got K-Red giving an even flow.
Great song.
I saw the last show at the Spectrum, Pearl Jam. And
I'll even take it a step further.
2009 World Series, and I believe was there an Eagles game? There was 3 events going on. It was World Series, it might have been Eagles, and last show at the Spectrum, Pearl Jam. What a night.
I'll take it a step further, and this is not me trying to like do a play on words. I think that 10 is a top 10 rock album of all time.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I'd agree with that.
All right, let's go back in the day. Presented by Rite Aid, your neighborhood friendly Rite Aid. Stop in there. Snacks, household products, prescriptions, over-the-counter medication. They got it all. Stop into Rite Aid.
And
Andrew?
here's a great jingle brought to us by our own Eddie Vedder.
We're going back.
Eddie Vedder.
We're going back.
We got Eddie Vedder at home.
Yeah, this is Eddie at home.
Back in the day
BG.
with Rite Aid. Yeah.
All right, I got something for you.
All right, what do you got here?
Here we go. We are going to go. Let me pull it up here real quick so we can have it set up so I can put it on the screen. Okay, we are going to go back to this date. January 3rd in 1993, where the Eagles are playing the Eagles are playing the Saints in their first. They're breaking the curse of the playoffs.
Okay.
So this is brought to us by Phillies Flashback Central and 2001 Eagles.
1993.
Here we go. We got a video.
The high black with the.
Can't beat a day like today.
In the Superdome, the Eagles look back to move forward. The memory of Jerome Brown illuminated their cause.
Eagles, baby. Eagles #1, baby. Eagles. JD!
Cunningham on play action is back. He's loading up. He wants Barnett deep. Racing. Has it. 5. Touchdown! Arkansas, Fred Barnett!
In the NFL, a playoff game is a war of attrition. Check the score at the end of 60 minutes, not 30 minutes. And then you'll find out who should be cheering.
Here is a mighty big play. 3rd and 10.5. Eagles trailing by 10. Cunningham with no shotgun his back. He's loading up. He's floating it deep. Leaping. And a great touchdown catch by Fred Barnett. Fred Barnett leaping into the end zone, making a circus catch on the far side. And there is life.
Go pick it up here, Tank. Everybody's picking it up now.
On first down, Hebert's going to throw. He runs. He fires. It's intercepted by Joyner. 3rd and 1. Cunningham goes to Sherman. Takes the outside. He's got the touchdown! Sherman and the Eagles take the lead.
Keep playing tough and smart.
Shotgun. Back goes Hebert. He's hit. He's
Safety. Safety.
And it's going to be a safety, or is it?
Yep, they give it
a safety. A safety as they get him in the end zone.
Reggie White's safety was followed by a Roger Ruzick field.
All right, we'll cut it there.
That was awesome. Man, that's good stuff. To everybody that hung out with us on TV platforms, we appreciate you. We love you. If you want to continue watching the final moments of the show, head over to allphly.com. There was so much good stuff in that clip. Like, that is my nostalgia. Like, that's when I fell in love with the Eagles.
Oh,
you know, because like 93, I was 12.
Okay.
Like, not that I was like breaking down X's and O's, but like football started to
Kind
make
of that
more
first time
sense.
you understand it more than just like Eagles are cool, Eagles win. Yeah.
And Randall Cunningham for me
Oh, man.
was my gateway to football love. Like, he was and still is the coolest. Like, dude was, I would love to see him for
With
a full
this team?
career in modern era football.
This
He'd be a
Eagles
Hall of
team.
Famer.
He would
I'm
be a Hall of
convinced he'd be a
Famer.
Hall of Famer.
I am convinced he would be a Hall of Famer. He was so freaking cool. From the scrambling to the high black tops, Nike shoes he would wear, like his arm strength, the fact he would punt the ball, like he was just so freaking cool.
About a week ago, we did back in the day with him, and it was the play where he like falls and he gets down. And,
he stops himself.
One arm gets,
Dude,
and
he has to
picks
be like a
himself back
yoga
up and
freak.
throws a touchdown.
His
Freak.
body control and mobility and flexibility. I think it was Bruce Smith on that play, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Almost sacks him, and he avoids it.
And he avoids it by
And
like
then he,
holding
pops
himself
back
up
and
and
throws.
he throws a
It was
touchdown.
either Giants or Bills. I can't remember which team that was.
I think it was the
I
Bills.
think it was the Bills.
I think it was
Yeah,
Bruce
yeah.
Smith
The
that
Bills.
missed the sack, and that's like, you know,
Beast.
one of the best ever to do it, and he couldn't even bring him down. And then like there's Baldy, which makes the clip amazing.
Oh yeah.
And then Reggie White, like, God, that was and Fred Barnett. Arkansas Fred was like the first wide receiver. Him and Calvin Williams. But Arkansas Fred, who I got to know over the years, and he's still around all the time. He does a lot with Philly Sports Strips.
Sure.
Great dude. I think he's the Philly Sports Strip ambassador to the Bahamas.
How do I get that job?
Good, congrats,
I mean,
Fred
nobody cares.
Barnett.
Nobody cares
Yeah,
about me,
seriously.
but like, I'll be the ambassador to the Bahamas.
But that catch, like, I didn't remember that. He high pointed that at the end zone over two dudes.
incredible
Came down
catch.
with it on his back.
Yeah.
That was an awesome.
Well
back in
done,
the
Phillies
day.
Flashback Central in 2001 Eagles.
Yeah,
That's a good one for today.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So that Randall team, like that 93 team you were saying, the first one I remember, like more than just like go Eagles, they're the best, was the 03 NFC Championship game.
Okay.
So that one to me was like that first pinpoint.
Yeah.
What?
Mickey Durkin in the chat said Baldy looked like he swallowed 10
Oh, no.
balloons.
Oh no, not.
Yeah, well, he had to keep weight on to be an O lineman back then.
He was a monster of a human being. He
You
still
couldn't be
is.
yeah, he still is.
Giant.
But you couldn't really be a svelte, like, dudes were different back then. You know what I mean? Like, you had to keep weight on. Like,
Yeah,
they
those-
wanted you as big
That
as
was
possible.
bros being dudes.
Yeah, those were football guys. Baldy doesn't use a straw.
Those weren't really pads. Like, you were the pad.
Your girth was the bad.
Yeah, your girth was the pad.
I love
Playing
the
on
back of the day.
concrete with a little slab of AstroTurf.
Man, New Orleans and the Superdome, crazy to see that. That was an awesome clip. Really enjoyed that. As we get out of here, Sixers went down last night. Flyers went down last night. Go winter sports teams.
Yeah, it was probably a good.
Steph Curry, I think, went 8 for 8 from deep.
Was a good 2-day stretch for the Sixers to be on the West Coast because people were doing holiday stuff, doing New Year's Day stuff, watching college football. Like
Good checkout time.
because like the two games couldn't have been any more different in my eyes. Where like yesterday, you had no shot. You were cooked. Golden State cooked you.
Yeah.
Now going into the game, you had a chance to beat a Golden State team that's not nearly as good as they've been in years past. But like that game, if you look at it at the end, you're like, yeah, there was no prayer. The Sacramento game still kind of irks me a little bit, the way that it ended.
That was the one you should have won.
15-point lead, 16-point lead with 6 minutes to play in the second quarter, tie ball game at half. 15-point lead at one point. They go on a 15-0 run or 12-0 run or whatever it was to end the game against Sacramento. That's the one. If I'm talking about one of the two in the back-to-back, that's the one that still kind of is going to irk people a little bit. Because then you could say, sure, they've won 11 and 14.
Yeah.
Scheduled loss to Golden State on a back-to-back to end your West Coast. You have some justification to that loss. You lose both, and especially you lose both the way you did against Sacramento, that's where people are going to get upset.
And I saw Kyle Neubeck blue sky this out last night, and I completely agree with him. He said, Kyle Lowry in the starting five is going to turn me into the Joker.
I can't.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I can't do the old man collection anymore.
Not as a starter. Kyle Lowry has a place, and I think he can serve a purpose come playoff time and all that, but not as a starter. You just can't. You can't.
And you know what the funny thing is? Last night he only played 10 minutes, and it feels like he played 17 on Wednesday night. He played 10 on Thursday night. He played 27 minutes in 2 games, and it feels like it's too much.
And Mickey Durkin does say one other thing that I had in my notes here. Did you catch this? Charles Barkley, Andrew walked over earlier and I was listening to it. JJ Redick is so smug and pretentious. I liked him as a Sixer.
Mm-hmm.
Hated him at Duke. Like it's been like peaks and valleys with JJ Redick.
It took me a really long time to strip my Duke hatred
Sure.
of JJ Redick away. Even when he was a Sixer, I'm like, nah, I don't like this guy. And then it's like, oh, wait, yeah, no, he flies around, pin down screens and knocks down threes. At a ridiculous clip. I like this guy now.
So now I'm back to he's pretentious and obnoxious, and I don't like him, and I'm rooting for him to fail. Just being honest here. So he's the head coach of the Lakers, obviously, if you're not up to it. And he was asked the other day in a post-game press conference about the failure of the NBA ratings this year. And he's like, let me just answer this quick. And then he goes on like a 5-minute speech from his soapbox. And some of the points he made are actually valid. And it was like streaming, blah, 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 whatever. But then he goes on to say, the media of the NBA is too negative, too critical, and they don't promote and tell the story of the league enough. And he basically made reference to Inside the NBA and Charles and crew. And I love that show. Do you go there for your X's and O's and smart basketball analytical breakdown? Not really.
No, entertainment
It's
value.
entertainment. Yeah. It's pure entertainment, and it's highly entertaining. So he kind of alluded to them being a reason for the negativity in the media around the NBA. And Barkley last night, in pure Barkley, just gold standard fashion, goes, JJ, you a dead man walking out there.
Jeez.
You know, they fired Frank Vogel, thought he could change everything around. You thought you would go out there and change everything around. You didn't put enough lipstick on that pig. He's like, that is an ugly girl you're dating. The Lakers are trash.
Oh, my gosh.
And Charles just, boom, from the top rope, dropped the elbow on him, and I love to see it.
Yeah,
it was pretty entertaining.
Like people, like my one group chat at 6:30 this morning, there's like vitriol about why the NBA stinks right now.
It doesn't
like,
stink. It's too many 3-pointers in
there
my
are.
opinion.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I think that you're always going to have like, because now everybody's got a podcast too, right? Like you're going to have like the old heads hating on the new guys. That's why I always respect like the old heads who are like, no, this kid's good. Like he can play, and you should celebrate the good players because we got. You know, like I'm like my thought's always been, you know, if you got crap from the older generation, disconnect that, right? So like in our industry, the idea of, well, I worked in middle of nowhere, Alaska, so should you, I think is I would like to maybe disassociate that a little bit. I think the same could be true from like professional athletes from one generation to the next. But I do think there's merit to say the game's been odd this year. Like I said to you a couple weeks ago, like I don't tune into a random Tuesday night game like I used to.
No, I'm with you. I think 110 threes a game is ridiculous.
It's a lot.
Hot take here.
Yeah.
Pull the 3 line back and get rid of the corner 3.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Minimize the corner 3.
Players you're saying Justin Ark from Interesting.
And let's throw in a rock and jock 10-pointer from the other side of the court.
Yeah, I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is,
they should put a golden snitch out in the parking lot and let a fan catch it.
The average player today is so much better than they were 20 years ago.
Everybody takes threes.
Yeah. So it's just like, I'm with you. Back up the line. It's become a little bit too easy for them. Let's, whatever. That's a conversation for another day. All right. That's going to do it for us here. Filling in for Anthony Gargano. The full crew of VG also will be back on Monday. I'll be filling in for VG on Tuesday. Doing some Johnny Marks work as well next week.
John Marks show a couple times next week.
Tuesday and Wednesday. So me and Tyler will be together a bunch. But big thank you to Andrew behind the scenes. Big thank you to Bo Wulf, Fran Duffy, and Brad Feinberg for joining the show as well. It's Friday. It's a great time of the year. I hope you and yours have a great weekend ahead. And go Birds, as always. We'll see you soon here on the Anthony Gargano Show.
We all silly like the mayor.